Yeah, but where? Each of those could be like a 10 or an hour and a half long.
Good evening. If you desire to address the City Council during this meeting, please complete a request to speak form available by the entrance and present it to the City Clerk. Speakers will be called upon by me at the appropriate time. So at this time, I will call to order and convene the City Council, and City Council is a successor agency to the Community Redevelopment Agency. We'll have an invocation tonight given by Councilmember Doug Wilson, followed immediately by the Pledge of Allegiance by our Child Care Director, Linda Phillips. If you would stand, please, and remain standing until we have completed the pledge.
Please pray with me. O God, the eternal Father, we come before Thee, a group of Thy children, humbled by our free agency, seeking Thy guidance and the governance of ourselves. May we do so with careful deliberation, respecting each other's experience and input, and always in accordance with what is right and lawful in Your eyes. May we be gifted with a portion of Thy Spirit, so that the actions taken here reflect the righteous desires of the community of Grand Terrace, so all might benefit. We ask Thy blessing upon this proceeding, and thank Thee for all of our opportunities in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please put your right foot over your heart. Ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Councilmember Wilson and Ms. Phillips. Madam City Clerk, may I have roll call, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Hussey?
Present.
Councilmember Wilson?
I am here.
Councilmember Mitchell?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Robles?
Present.
Mayor McNabb?
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Tonight, our first item is a special presentation from Omnitrans. They're here tonight to talk to us about our bus service in town.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Frank Quaff. I'm with Omnitrans. We're the public transit agency that serves the southwestern corner of San Bernardino County. I'm not here to talk specifically about our large big bus transit system. I want to share with you some information on some other services that Omnitrans provides that's available to the residents of Grand Terrace.
Before you continue, I'm going to request that you speak into the microphone as much as possible. That helps people at home to hear. It helps us hear and hear. We do have an issue with our sound system, so the more you can speak into the microphone, the better. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'll try not to get crazy with my hands here. The first service that I want to speak about is the OmniGo service, which is a community fixed route service that operates through Grand Terrace. Route 325, I'm sorry, we jumped here, runs from the High Grove Library area northbound to the VA Medical Center in Loma Linda. It operates approximately 30 minutes north, each direction that between the two facilities. The endpoints at High Grove Library and Loma Linda allow riders to connect to the Riverside Transit Agency Route 14 to continue deeper into Riverside if they desire, but also continuing into the VA Medical Center, the Veterans Hospital, allows connection to several other directions. And it's all about bringing connectivity in transit to the members of the public. At Loma Linda, passengers can connect to Pass Transit for service that continues out to Calimesa, Beaumont, and Banning. From there, connect on Sunline and continue further into the desert area. Also at Loma Linda, we can connect into our SBX, our rapid transit bus, which operates between Loma Linda and Cal State San Bernardino. And also connect to our transit center, our new transit center in downtown San Bernardino, where even more connection opportunities are available. Not only throughout the Omnitrans service area, but also connections to our partner agencies, Victor Valley Transit, which connects up the hill to Victorville and Barstow, and also Mountain Transit, which connects up to Crestline and Big Bear. There's lots of connectivity that starts from this local community transit route. Our OmniGo community circulator started back in 2010. We had become aware of Riverside making some route changes, which would have left the city without through service, without transit service through the community. And in discussions with Grand Terrace staff and our Omnitrans planning department, we decided to try this community circulator and kind of fill that void that was going to be left behind. Right now, our Grand Terrace OmniGo transports between 1,500 and 2,000 passengers per month. Most of that is connectivity to Riverside at High Grove into Riverside, people coming into Grand Terrace from Riverside, and a lot of through passengers that connect down to the VA hospital in Loma Linda. Our average ridership is about 73 passengers a day on a small minibus, about the size of a UPS delivery truck. So it's not a large transit bus rumbling through the streets like most people perceive when we talk transit bus. Our end of line at Center, Michigan is the most frequent stop for the people traveling southbound. About 24% of riderships ride through to Michigan and Center at the High Grove Library. Coming northbound, almost 50% of our riders continue all the way through to the Loma Linda Hospital. We sampled 81 trips, 40 northbound and 41 southbound, to see where everyone was traveling to. And on the northbound segment, a lot of our boardings occur at that transfer point with RTA and ride into the community. Now, while we're dropping off through the community, Barton in Michigan is a high drop-off point, as well as Barton and Mount Vernon. But while we're traveling through the community, we're picking up passengers and bringing them into Colton, the edge of Colton by Stater Brothers, and through to the VA hospital. On these particular trips that we sampled, these 40 northbound trips, 74 riders traveled through just to the VA hospital. On our southbound trip, we collect a lot of our boardings at the VA hospital and bring passengers back up into the Grand Terrace area. A lot of the people that exit the vehicle are exiting the bus at Barton and Mount Vernon, and also at the Blue Mountain Villas. There's a lot of activity to and from the senior center on this route. The other service I want to share with you, we do have an Access Services program. Access Services is the service, the ADA, American with Disabilities Act paratransit service that provides public transit to persons with disabilities. When the American with Disabilities Act was passed, the FTA developed some regulations and some policy for public transit agencies to provide a comparable level of public transit to disabled individuals who are not able to use the regular bus system. And specifically, there's some barrier to the rider from using and accessing the standard transit bus. In response to that, Omnitrans and every transit agency in the country has established an ADA paratransit program. Disabled applicants apply to the program, and there's a strict eligibility process. And when we interview clients, we're looking to find out which barriers prevent them from using our bus service. Our ADA paratransit buses are all lift equipped and can carry between 12 to 16 passengers that are ambulatory and up to 4 passengers that ride with mobility devices. Our eligibility process is an in-person interview program. We invite the applicants into our Omnitrans offices and we sit down and review the application with them and interview them and try to identify what barriers, physical or cognitive, prevent them from using our fixed route and develop and assess which program might be best suited for the applicant to provide their mobility and their transit needs. Now, for the city of Grand Terrace, the entire city of Grand Terrace is within our access services boundary. Currently, there are 61 disabled individuals who are registered with access with Omnitrans who are residents of the city of Grand Terrace. However, only 15 of those passengers are what I call active riders, and those are individuals who ride at least one round trip in a calendar year. So there's a lot of people that have registered, and access is used as their safety net for transit. You know, if whatever mode they use is no longer available to them, access is there to bridge that gap. The majority of these trips that we transport with our access program from Grand Terrace are round trips for 7 individuals who travel to workshop or adult daycare programs. And they travel about 250 times per month, these 7 passengers, every day, Monday through Friday, to their programs, workshops, outside of the city. There are only 14 trips, or 7 round trips, that remain within the city currently. And that's to Stater Brothers and to Cut and Curl down the street here. So, as Omnitrans is moving forward, there's some potential partnership opportunities that we're looking at internally. We have a relationship with the other regional transit agencies, and one of our peers in the area has a community transportation services division, which helps go beyond what the ADA paratransit can do and go beyond what the fixed up services can do. Our internal discussions initially here are looking at potential vehicle donation programs to nonprofits and community organizations such as the City Senior Center and other programs where when we retire our accessible paratransit buses, we donate them to the cities to use for their programs and their services to help them get their community members to their specific programs and functions. As part of that, we're also, there are sometimes our donation program sounds good superficially, but when recipients of the vehicles realize that there's a special license involved in operating these buses, there's some shock value to that. But we also, as part of this, are looking to involve our training people to help these programs and nonprofits get their selected drivers eligible and certified to operate a 16-passenger minibus. Then, as well as that, our operational people are also available to help, will be able to help with route development or consultation on how to most maximize the effectiveness or the use of the vehicle and service. And again, we're just starting those internal discussions, and we've had some discussion with Grand Terrace staff of, the potential for some of these programs, and we're hoping to roll those out in the coming calendar year. And that's all I have to share tonight. I thank you for allowing me to come and speak about the other services that Omnitrans provides. And thank you again for including us.
Okay. I have a question about your access service.
Sure.
Now, is it only for those that have disabilities? Or-
Yes.
Okay.
It's restricted to individuals who meet FTA criteria for their disabilities.
Okay.
Specifically that as a result of their disability, there is a physical or cognitive barrier that prevents them from accessing and using the standard transit bus.
Okay, and the OmniGo, does that go from our senior center to the Stater Brothers at all?
Yes, it does. It's open to general public. Anybody wants to board, pay a fare. From Highgrove Library, it cuts through the senior center and the Blue Mountain Villas, goes past the new Staters, the Staters on Washington and Barton, and to the VA hospital also.
I happened to be at the senior center Monday, and I had a resident there asking me about the bus service and wondering if there was any way that the OmniGo could drop passengers off at the door of Stater Brothers instead of at the bus stop. Is there an opportunity for that to happen, or is there a regulation that keeps you out by the bus stops?
There's not a regulation that I'm aware of. It's more related to the actual operating time and the run time of the vehicle. There are certain times of day that, and once you get in some of these parking lots, it's a tough loop to get back out.
Right.
And so it's disadvantageous to the people riding through the service to deviate too much from the fixed stops.
Okay, so if we needed to have that kind of service, we could look at something else then.
Yeah, for people, individuals with disabilities, access does go to that level. It does go to that curb, to the door in front of the Stater Brothers.
Okay,
So it
thank you.
depends on need.
Do my colleagues have any questions? Thank you very much for being here tonight. I appreciate you going over that. It's a nice service that we have here, especially, I do remember when Riverside Transit stopped coming through our city and Omnitrans came in and created this service for us, and I think it's been very well used. And I know I didn't have an idea when somebody asked me how to access the bus route, so I appreciate you coming here and
Not a
giving this
problem.
presentation.
And on your point about the service suggestion, our routing and our planning department are always receptive of comments and suggestions on other places where the buses might go. We look at them all every 3 months to see what might be a new opportunity for us.
Okay, thank you again. I appreciate your time. Okay, we'll move on to our next item, which is the consent calendar. The following consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the City Council at one time without discussion. Any council member, staff member, or citizen may request removal of an item from the consent calendar for discussion. Currently, I have one request from citizen Jeff Allen for item number 4 to be removed. Are there any other requests for items to be removed?
I'll move the balance.
Okay. I have a motion for the balance. Do I have a second?
Second, Mayor.
Okay. All right. Motion and second for items 1, 2, and 3 on the consent calendar. Please vote.
Motion passes 5 ayes. Council members Hussey, Wilson, Mitchell voted aye. Mayor Pro Tem Robles voted aye. Mayor McNamara voted aye.
Thank you. Okay. Item number 4 is the approval of the check register. Mr. Allen, did you have a question regarding this?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My only question was about, there's several checks that are written to various telecommunications companies for cell phone service and cable service for city facilities like childcare, City Hall, and it appears like the city pays the cable bill and so forth for the senior center. And so I was just curious as to why some city, or why there's AT&T and Verizon being utilized, and Time Warner and Comcast, and and there's more than one check in a pay period being written to each entity. And so I'm sure there's a logical explanation for city staff, but for an outside citizen, layperson looking at it, it looks...
I appreciate your comments. I know at one time we had Time Warner, we were paying 2 different bills for the senior center, and those have since been combined onto one account. So
Right.
that is certainly something for the staff to look at
Okay.
and see if maybe there's a better deal we could be getting, right?
And the thing that brought it to my attention was when there's multiple checks to the same company in the same, period of time. Just kind of curious. But thank you for addressing that.
Oh, thank you for your comments. Okay. Any other questions on the check register while we have it off? All right, how about a motion?
A motion to move the check register, item 4.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion and second to approve the check register. Please vote.
Motion passes 5 ayes. Council members Hussey, Wilson, Mitchell voted aye. Mayor Pro Tem Robles voted aye. Mayor McNamara voted aye.
Thank you. Our next item is public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on items not appearing on the regular agenda. Because of restrictions contained in California law, City Council may not discuss or act on any item not on the agenda, but may briefly respond to statements made or ask a question for clarification. I may also ask that a brief response from staff to questions raised during public comment may be made, or request a matter be agendized for a future meeting. Are there any request to speak forms for public comment? Thank you. All right, our first request to speak form is for Berga Lasser. If you'd come forward, please.
Berger Lesser, 22950 Jensen Court, Grand Terrace. In the Blue Mountain, I don't know, was it the 1st of October, was the 1st of November, there was a big write-up of Bert's Jeweler being in the city for 20 years. I personally think that other businesses have been in this city for over 20 years and never saw a write-up in the paper. For instance, GT Imprint, Grand Terrace Real Estate, Animal Hospital, Dr. Young. They all been here more than 20 years and nothing is said. I think the city should look at things before they leap. It's the same thing with the citizens. Some citizens get written up every time in this Outlook paper. Other citizens, they never been mentioned. You know, we all do things on charity, but we don't announce it. There is a lot of citizens in this city which do things for charity, and they don't want no publicity. But there is everything, every time in the Outlook, this citizen, this citizen. It's just not fair. I think everybody should be, if we give somebody a plaque for 20 years, then we should look at other businesses which been in the city for 20 years and see if they should get a plaque too. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Lasser. Next request to speak form is from Patricia Farley.
I want to point out to the council this evening that item 9 under new business has something in it that demonstrates an incredible lack of regard for some of the citizens of this community and should not be discussed, recommended, or passed because of what has been deliberately and brazenly attempted to be ramrodded through, violating the rights of people on Michigan and near Michigan. And I have a speech that I could give you for all the reasons why. I'm asking, are you going to pull it, or are you going to have me give my speech on item 9 when you're already discussing something that is illegal for you to be processing the way it's being processed?
Thank you, Ms. Farley. I appreciate your comments.
Do you want to hear my speech, or are you going to?
Are my colleagues wanting to pull item 9?
it's illegal for you to discuss it.
I'm asking if my colleagues wanting to pull item 9.
Point of order, Mayor. I believe this is an agendized item, and so it would be more appropriate to be addressed at the agendized time.
No, her speech should be addressed on item 9. Is it something that my colleagues want to do to pull item 9?
She can provide her 3-minute speech the time that she's allocated, like the rest of the residents.
That's
Okay.
right.
If you so feel
I
that
would
you want.
like
Wait.
under public
Please,
comment.
please hold your comments. I'm asking my colleagues, do we want to continue to have item 9 heard tonight as it is agendized? That's all I'm
Yes.
asking.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Farley. If you want to put in a request to speak form on item 9, you are welcome to do
Okay,
that.
I want to make a comment on the years that I've had flying in front of me, "In God We Trust," and all these prayers that cause people to get the impression that what you do in face of number 9 is graced by God and guided by God. I and others in the city are offended by having that in our faces, given the way we've been treated.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Next request to speak form is W. Curtis Holt.
Good evening. I became a resident here in Grand Terrace in May. I'm also an independent insurance agent. I attempted to write an insurance policy on my house for flood. It was denied by NFIP, and the reason was that the city is not participating with NFIP at this time. I looked through numerous carriers, including the open market. City manager and I had a discussion today, and all of them are requiring that NFIP be participated in. At this point, we have no protection for our homes. We can't write the policies, and we have no federal bailout if such a catastrophe does happen. I've had discussions with the local farmers agent and Allstate agents. The Allstate agent did send an email for me to present to you guys so you can see his stance on it as well. This is something I think the city should move on. We do have a pending El Nino, and we do have other things that could flood our homes. And without this insurance, we're going to have no coverage whatsoever.
Thank you, Mr. Holt. I know you've been in contact with Mr. Duffy, and I know he will follow up with you on this, and he will give an update to the council as well.
That would be great. Would you guys like to have this email, or should I forward it to him directly?
If you could forward it, and then he'll forward it to all of us, that would be great.
That'd be fine.
Thank you. All right, next request is from Jeff Allen.
Jeff Allen, Brentwood Street, Grand Terrace. Thank you for your time. And Madam Mayor, members of the council, I've been aware that there's some discussion about adding some code enforcement to our current code enforcement staff because of some unapparent or violations that are not being kept up with. And I just wanted to mention that I believe that we should, before we think about hiring extra code enforcement officers for the weekends, that we should think about the violations that we have in this city that are occurring during the weekday, ongoing, blatantly, without, people are not waiting until the weekend to park junk cars in front of their house and then pull them back in on Sunday night because Barry Owens coming to work Monday morning. And they're not waiting till the weekend to, leave other stuff out on the street and in front of their house. There's, over in the neighborhood that I live in, there's a house that has a tree that's fallen on it. It's been like that for weeks, months, And this is our city, and how does that look to our city? There are a lot of code violations that occur, and this is not an indictment on the residents. I'm not saying that Barry should run out and start writing a bunch of tickets, but it seems like the only thing that gets a ticket is somebody who parks on the curb when the street sweeper comes around. And nobody gets a ticket for anything else. And I'm not asking for that. I'm just saying fair is fair. you and I live in the same neighborhood, Madam Mayor, and you can walk down that street over there, and there are junk cars parked in front of houses that have been there for months, years, you know, and nothing happens. And if I say something and mention something, I just get a blank stare, like I'll look into it. And so that's my comments. Before we think about spending city money on extra code enforcement officers, I think one should look in the LA Times today at the article on San Bernardino, who uses volunteer code enforcement officers. Now, if we can have volunteer CERT people and volunteer EOC people covered and indemnified by the city, I think we can, and we also have citizens on patrol. I don't understand why we can't have a volunteer code enforcement crew also, if you can find folks that are willing to do that. I don't know. I just feel like we should be using a little bit more fairness and common sense about our code enforcement activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Next request to speak is from Ashley Jones on behalf of Assembly Member Brown.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, and also members of the general public. I'm here once again on behalf of Assemblymember Cheryl Brown to share a brief announcement. We realize it's a little early, but we ask you to save the date and join us at our holiday open house to share your legislative proposals and discuss critical issues facing the 47th Assembly District. In addition, we ask you to please share the joy and excitement of this holiday season by donating a new unwrapped toy toward our 3rd annual toy drive. I have some flyers with me for those who would like to receive one. The event will be held Tuesday, December 1st from 5:30 to 7 at our district office, which is located at 290 North D Street, D like Dog Street, in Suite 903, City of San Bernardino. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Jones, and thank you to the Assembly member for the invitation. And I have another request to speak for, and it's from Bobby Forbes.
Good evening, Bobby Forbes, 11850 Burns Avenue, Grand Terrace. I'd like to add to Ashley's presentation that she has something that she's looking for some high school students, 4, to participate in a program. Sounds like a really good program. Maybe she can add to that, or if you go on her website or something. But I was talking to her at the country fair about it, and she needs some kids, and we have a lot of kids that need something to do. So maybe they can help her out, and Ms. Brown. I'd like to bring up the rave briefly. Please, anyone besides me that heard it, that lives in Grand Terrace, Ritchie Canyon, Colton, or any place else, please contact City Hall so that our mayor can hear other people besides me heard it, because I know other people did. And next, I forgot what I was going to say, I'm sorry. The country fair was a good event. The food was great. Everyone had a nice time. They raised a little bit of money. And our community has gone out twice this month to do fundraisers, the Grand Terrace Chamber of Commerce, the Historical and Cultural Committee event, the Lions Club has something coming up. What a great town we have. This is a really good thing. So, sorry I can't remember the third thing. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any other requests to speak forms in front of me, but if there's somebody that would like to come forward and speak at this time, please do. All right, seeing no takers, I will close public comment and come back to council for their communications. I'll start with Council Member Bill Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everybody who came out tonight, and thank you for your public comment. I just want to say a couple things. Congratulations to the Grand Terrace High School football team for making it to the CIF playoffs. They'll be playing this Friday at Monrovia High School at 7 o'clock. You can buy tickets at the high school or at the gates. I don't know how much those tickets are, but it would be nice. I'm going to try to make it myself after work to go out there and support our high school. And also today is the U.S. Marine Corps' 240th birthday. As a Marine, that's our big celebration, so happy birthday, Marines. I know we got a couple of them in here. And tomorrow is Veterans Day. And it's going to be an honor to attend. I know the mayor's probably going to bring this up, but the Freedom Wall dedication at Pico Park at 11 o'clock. As a veteran, it's honored to have this monument in our city. I will never forget the date, December 26, 1982, at 2 o'clock in the morning, when a Marine recruiter came and picked me up out of the house. And then we took that long ride to LA and the longer ride to San Diego. And I had this nice guy tell me to get out the bus really fast to get on the yellow footprints. So that day changed forever. It made me a better man, and it changed my life. But I will never forget the sacrifices what our vets has gone through. Some are going through right now. I go to the VA hospital at least 2 or 3 times a month, and I see it every time. So if you ever get a chance, if you make it out to the VA hospital and just thank one of the vets, they also ask volunteers to come out there and help them out. But as a vet, and I know other vets here, that we wouldn't change it for anything in the world. And if any vet, no matter how old we are, if we're called upon this nation to protect it, we will, without second guessing. I also salute all the active duty members serving our great nation. My family prayers are with you daily. We also pray for the moms and dads whose children are serving, the husbands and wives who are separated, the children who don't have their parents with them. They are the true heroes. My nephew Ryan, he's in the U.S. Army. He's currently serving at the DMZ in North Korea. I'm proud of him. Remember, tomorrow's the freedom dedication, and that's a big word, freedom. Freedom is not free. It's going ongoing payment, and today the active duty military is paying for it. As vets paid for it, we pass the torch on to them. We'll continue to support them, no matter what the cost is. I know the Freedom Wall is being at Pico Park, but I mentioned this before, I like to have it brought to the agenda one of these days. But I would like to, talking to some of the citizens of Grand Terrace, maybe Mr. Duffy, you could bring this up and talk to my council members. I know we discussed on renaming some of these parks, but I'd like to dedicate the renaming of Pico Park to Veterans Park to honor our Freedom Wall. It just makes sense that, the Freedom Wall's at a Veterans Park and not just Pico Park. Give it that little bit more dedication. Thank you for the Freedom Wall. Jim, thank you for bringing that to Grand Terrace. I'm proud. I do have a couple more applications coming in for that. But thank you, everybody in Grand Terrace, and God bless our military, and God bless our vets. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Wilson.
I echo Mr. Hussey's comments. At one point, I dabble in family history a little bit, and we've got upwards of 75 American Revolution folks, people that fought in the American Revolution, veterans. So I'm having a hard time trying to determine which ones should have the plaques. I think they're $100 a piece, and 75 of them I'll have to take out a loan. I attended the country fair, and I got the dubious privilege of acting as MC. It was a lot of great food, a lot of great people, and it's another testament to our town and the neat activities that we are able to instrument. I attended the dinner at the Senior Center where the city manager, G. Harold Duffy, was introduced, and we listened to some wonderful music. And my teeth floated a little bit there while one fellow was doing some beautiful jazz stuff, accompanied by Cynthia Fortune, our finance director. So it was a nice opportunity, very comfortable. I'm sad to report, and this is my last item, that the home next to me was burglarized last Thursday or Friday. Obviously, it upset the folks that live next to me. They are renters, and I don't know how this person that burglarized them knew the right time, but they brazenly walked down the side of their house. You just opened up the gate, walked down the side of their house, entered their house, and I don't know that there was a lot of stuff that was taken, but by George, that's not the point. We know what that does to us, and so I am proud to say that we are using some of our one-time money to try to alleviate that situation to some effect. So that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. I too would like to thank everyone for coming out tonight and participating, and I really appreciate hearing the public comment. I encourage you all to speak on an item that you feel passionate about. I attended the annual Halloween festival at Rollins Park on October 31st. I was asked to organize the costume contest and work with the judges to judge our young kids of the community. Very difficult job for our judges, but a great job done by them. I also attended the Omnitrans board meeting on November 4th. A few of the agenda items included approval of the board to move forward with seeking federal reimbursement from the County of Riverside Department of Public Health for county-based medical administrative activities involving enrolling potential eligible individuals into Medi-Cal and allowing 50% of eligible trips to be reimbursed. Approval of the board to execute agreement between Omnitrans and San Bernardino Associated Governments to receive $1.7 million of Measure I funds. Receive and file quarterly progress report of Omnitrans management plan that included new vehicle safety features for both operators and passengers. Purchase of additional clean natural gas vehicles through grant monies to reduce fuel costs and means to increase ridership and customer satisfaction. I also had the pleasure of serving as a committee member for the Grand Terrace Chamber of Commerce golf tournament that took place this last Friday. The event was successful in terms of golfer participation, sponsorship, overall event income, and golfer satisfaction. I personally want to thank the entire committee for their hard work and our chairman, golf tournament chairman, Jody Barnett, and everyone for their dedication and hard work. Lastly, actually I got two other things. I'm excited to report that I'm also sitting on the first annual Light Up Grand Terrace, tree lighting ceremony. We have our second committee meeting this Thursday. I'm proud to report if the planning continues to be successful, our first annual Light Up Grand Terrace will be a treat for all of our residents. And I concur with your sentiments, Bobby. I too had a very busy weekend receiving phone calls and texts and personal visits from residents regarding the concert. I don't think it was a rave, but it was a concert at the Orange Show. So I would certainly like my peers to take some action and us support the mayor and our city manager in writing a letter to address those concerns. That concludes my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Robles.
Well, I'm going to start with the rave because I meant to put it on my notes and I didn't. So we're even on forgetting things. I didn't mention that I was going to be out of town. So my evening of Halloween was quite busy packing for a trip and then not getting sleep that night. So my Twitter timeline, I got from the city of San Bernardino the phone number and the email address to complain. So I didn't say what my position was other than I was a resident. And I got a lengthy response about they appreciated my contacting them and that they wanted to be a good neighbor and on and on and on. And then they wanted my exact address and street. And I thought, well, that'd be quite intimidating to an individual resident calling and would probably be a deterrent for them to proceed with continuing on with that complaint. So I gave them my address, and they said, oh, well, we're going to send some sound personnel over and work to quiet it down. So it went through its usual course that it did each time there's a rave there. It would peak, it would come down, and it would peak. You know, and it was shaking the windows and doors of my home. And the other person that we follow each other is a councilman, Valdivia from San Bernardino, and he did call me and say that the city, of course, you read in Press Enterprise of those that saw it. The city was very pleased with the rave and didn't see an issue that they were being a poor neighbor to the city of Grand Terrace. I also, from previous raves, had someone that worked there that told me that when they quiet it down, the rave participants get very angry and demand that it be raised back up. So you could tell that's what was going on. The next day I have to admit that it quieted down to what was a more acceptable level. But my conversation with the Councilman Valdivia was the city of San Bernardino doesn't own the airspace, and they have to, I'm sure I asked individually, which we all have to do unless it's agendized, to the city manager, to look at, what we need to do to defend the quiet enjoyment of people's homes in Grand Terrace from this intrusion. The other thing that we discussed was, I had no idea this rave was going to happen. I follow Captain Dorsey's on Twitter, and I read that they were getting ready for this. And I'm like, this was not at all on my radar. The councilman from the city of San Bernardino did not know until it was accidentally disclosed to him in a meeting with his police chief about 10 days before the rave. So we have a very intrinsic breakdown on the planning end of the rave. So I just wanted to make sure that I shared that. I can't believe that I forgot that. But you can see a little bit, I was going to do the Pledge of Allegiance before the invocation, so I've got that vacation thing going on. But moving on, I wanted just to mention that on my cruise, I participated in anytime dining. And one of the evenings, it was Pacific Coastal Cruise. So everybody was either from California or from Europe. And one day at the table, when everybody was introducing themselves, people had moved away from San Bernardino, but everybody at that table grew up in San Bernardino. So we had an interesting discussion about how important libraries were to us growing up. And that libraries serve as a crossroad and intersection for community members of all ages. It's a meeting place for learning, exploring, job search, children having access to reading rooms and creative activities. And so we have something on the agenda that I think is just really going to be enhancing that community experience for our community, and I'm really pleased about it. And I also attended the senior lunch with the city manager on Monday, and any of the residents, all of us, we have our phone numbers listed. I didn't want to go and disturb your lunches, but if you have any things that you wish to share with me, please feel free to call me. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to start off with Sandbag Board meeting of November 4th, 2015. We began with a closed session. It was a conference of legal counsel with existing litigation at City of Colton versus Sandbag, State of California, and Caltrans. The board heard an update from counsel, and the board gave direction to staff, and there were no reportable actions out of that session. Items on the consent calendar for this particular meeting included items that were reviewed by the Metro Valley Study Session that were reported as recommendations at the last council meeting. Those were approved by the entire board in addition to the following items. Under administrative matters, we received in September 2015 procurement report. We approved the Sandbag Investment Policy number 2100. We approved modifications to meeting procedures and rules of conduct. Under air quality and traveler services, we approved amendments to freeway service patrol contracts and extended contract terms to second-year options. Under regional, sub-regional planning, we reviewed and approved final countywide transportation plan, adopted the Active Transportation Program award list. This included an ATP grant for Grand Terrace that was submitted probably a year and a half ago. And so we will be getting funding for that particular grant. We received information on Caltrans Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant Submittal. We approved the Valley Freeway Interchange Prioritization and Phasing Options. Under the Transit and Rail, we approved a Management Analyst 2 position for railroad right-of-way management. They found that it was cheaper to have an individual in-house do that instead of many different people having a view to that. This would be somebody that would coordinate all of it and make sure that things were being done in a timely manner and that items weren't being missed. We approved Amendment 2 to contracts for Downtown San Bernardino Passenger Rail Project and Eastern Maintenance Facility Project. We received the August 2015 right-of-way grants of use report. We approved the Redlands Passenger Rail Project operations and maintenance approach. We approved the requested cash advance to Southern California Regional Rail Authority for locomotive procurement down payment. We approved Omnitrans East Street Corridor SBX Bus Rapid Transit Project, and we approved sub-recipient funding agreement with Omnitrans for Sandbag Countywide Van Pool Program. Under Council of Governments, we approved the purchase and sale agreement for the HERO assessment receivables. And then the discussion items that we had, we looked at insurance premiums and approved the recommended policy renewals and authorized executive director to execute them. We approved a budget amendment for advanced expenditure agreement with the city of Big Bear Lake. We approved the contract amendment for the I-40 Needles Connector project. We received the congestion management program monitoring update and awarded contract for monitoring tool application, maintenance, and hosting. We approved allocation to the High Desert Corridor Joint Powers Authority for the investment grade passenger rail revenue study. And then one of the items that we need to discuss, I think, locally here is we reconfirmed the locally preferred alternative for the I-10 corridor project. This project is currently in the environmental impact study process. We reconfirmed the locally preferred alternative so that we were able to take advantage of some federal funding, locking in a rate. However, this is not the final determination for this particular project. The next steps of the environmental process include circulating the environmental documents for public review and comments, and responding to comments and approval of the final environmental document by Caltrans. I think that it's important for this body here to consider the proposed options at another meeting and have a discussion so that we understand the city's preference and it may be represented when it comes to a final vote for this particular item. And the final discussion item was that the body designated Omnitrans as the Consolidated Transportation Services Agency in the San Bernardino Valley. So that was my time at Caltrans, and we'll be hearing more from, my time at Sandbag, and we'll be hearing more from Sandbag in another couple items. I too attended the country fair. It was again very well done by our cultural and historical committee. They put on a really nice opportunity for our local vendors who make things and grow plants to come and meet other people in the community and to sell what they've made and what they've grown. We also had our Assemblymember Brown there to make sure that our residents knew programs that they could take advantage of at the state level. It was nice to have city staff there as well. I also attended the Senior Center lunch with Mr. Duffy and my colleagues. It was very nice to be there with some of the seniors that don't come to the regular program. It was an opportunity for them to approach and ask questions about things like bus service. I was visited by Senator Leyva this last week. I was understanding that she had a new chief of staff that wanted to come out and meet me and meet staff, and as I prepared to meet the chief of staff, Senator Leyva got off the elevator with her as well. So I had a nice half-an-hour meeting with the senator and her chief of staff and other staff members and Mr. Duffy. We talked about some of the things that were going on in Sacramento. She was very interested to hear about items that were happening in our city. She is keeping an eye out for us in Sacramento and had what she believed was some good news on some legislation that she had voted on. Very happy to see the senator come and visit us. I'm not going to add to what Councilmember Hussey said about Veterans Day and our unveiling of the project, because I think you did a very good job of doing it, and I don't think I'd do any justice by adding to it, except to once more remind people that at 11 o'clock tomorrow at Pico Park, we will be having our Veterans ceremony, and we will be unveiling that particular monument, and it's been a lot of work for the committee that started that project. Lastly, at the last council meeting, Mayor Pro Tem Robles asked that the city manager and I have a conversation, and that conversation was to center around council members and council members giving direction to the city manager individually, whether it's here on the dais or outside of this particular meeting. So we did have our discussion, and a couple of the things that we talked about was the idea that all of the council members do have their different perspectives on things that they want to know about, that they want to hear, that they want to understand. And so as we meet here and we ask questions for more information, that's a good time to ask the question. It's a good time to ask for the information because we get to do that not only with our other colleagues present, but with the public present. And so they know that the question's been asked, and that gives the city manager an opportunity to come back to all of us with that information. But we as individuals are not in a position to give the city manager direction to go off and start a project, or go off and start an event, or go off and investigate ways to proceed with day-to-day operations, because we as a body are policy setting. And so what the city manager and I have discussed is that if I or one of my colleagues bring up an item and it sounds as though it's direction being given from one particular council member, either I will ensure that other council members have an opportunity to weigh in as to whether they like that direction, or if Mr. Duffy believes that he needs a little bit more clarification as to whether that's coming from the entire council, he will make that question to the entire council. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Mr. Duffy?
No, other than the fact that I strongly agree with that process, as council members are also citizens, and they have questions just like general citizens. But it does become a little difficult when if you come to a meeting as a citizen, you are really a council member at a meeting. And so it does place staff in a little difficult position, as we're going to always, if you're in a public meeting, we're going to take direction and then move forward and try and report back to the entire council to ensure that's the direction that you're going. So it's sort of it's interesting because you're citizens and you want to participate, but the moment that you step into a meeting with the rest of the citizens, you are a council member, and you play a dual role.
Thank you, Mr. Duffy. And then lastly, as far as the rave, I too did have comments, not just you, Bobby. I did have other comments. You weren't the only one that was complaining. And my understanding is that Mr. Duffy is working on that issue. What I have understood is that our challenge is to help the National Orange Show management to understand that we can hear their events up here in this community. At this time, they do not believe that we can actually hear certain events and the music that is projected from those events. So I think that's the first obstacle, is getting them to believe that we're not just complaining because we want to complain, that there's a noise element. Okay, so that will be my last item for tonight. Thank you very much. We will move on to our agenda. Item E, public hearings, we have none. Item F, we have unfinished business, of which we have none. So we will move on to item G, which is new business, and we will start with item number 5, update by San Bernardino Associated Governments on the I-215 interchange project. May we please have a staff report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. SAMAG doing an update today of the I-215 interchange, but particularly two topics of discussion. One has to do with the funding for the project. As the council may recall, Councilmember Wilson attended a SAMAG board meeting for the mayor, and at that meeting there was a item on the agenda to reprogram or reallocate some funding that's was intended for this particular project, and so that raised concerns. And then also the schedule of the project has changed, and so it's been delayed, and so there was a request to have Sandbag provide a presentation. So Paula Beauchamp with Sandbag, she's the project delivery manager for this project. She's here this evening to provide that presentation, and so I just wanted to introduce her, and she'll go ahead and give her presentation.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. I appreciate you having us here. I understood that you also wanted an update on where we were with the project, so I thought I'd go ahead and provide that now. Let's see, Sandra, it's not advancing. Oops, it went backwards. Okay, all right, sorry about that. This is a depiction of the Barton Road Interchange project. Sandbag is working on that, on this project as the lead. We have Caltrans performing the design, and we are doing the right-of-way. We've already completed our environmental, and so we've moved into these next phases. This particular project has the purpose of improving the operations in the area and the capacity of Barton Road. In addition, we plan to reduce the future congestion and to improve access to the facilities that are served by the interchange. This project currently has about 60% of the design complete, which is being performed by Caltrans, and staff is working on right-of-way. We've been working closely with the city since the environmental phase, and we've been fortunate that your staff has been able to participate in those PDT meetings and also in providing us information that we need from the city. So it's been beneficial to have them at the table. In our current design, I'll go ahead and go through what the improvements are. The purpose of the project was to widen and lengthen the Barton Road Bridge over the I-215 project. And so part of the project is to tie in. So on Barton Road between Grand Terrace Road and Vivienda, we will be widening Barton Road to improve the road bed, also to add sidewalks. And then on the west side of the freeway, you'll see a roundabout, that circular object near the southbound on and off ramps. This was designed in order to maintain access, direct access to La Crosse Avenue. Okay, whoops. So right here is the roundabout that we have planned. Okay, it was very important to the community and to the council that we maintained direct access to La Crosse. As a result, this feature is included. In addition to the improvements to Barton Road, we are also going to reconnect La Crosse. It is being disconnected as a result of the southbound off-ramp, and so we are building a new road here that will connect Vivienda to Grand Terrace Road, and that'll provide secondary egress in case of an emergency for the residents in that area. And then finally, we are going to connect Commerce Way to Vivienda on Barton Road here. There are transitions you see here, and then on the other side, where we will be transitioning the improvements to match the existing. The right-of-way element has been delayed by a year, and there are three primary reasons for that. The first was the allocations and obligations of the funds. We had both federal and state funds for this phase. So those approvals have to occur sequentially. And so the state funding process basically requires that we go to the CTC, which takes a couple of months to prepare and to attend. And then thereafter, we can move forward with our federal obligation. And in this case, it did take it usually takes about 4 months. It took a couple additional months. The reasons were various. One of the main differences was that typically when Caltrans sees those packages for right-of-way, they have the acquisition of the properties and the utilities together. In this case, they were separated because the funding were different, and that kind of caused a ripple in the process because it was different. And then the other thing was we were caught sort of at the end of the fiscal year, so not only did we go locally to Caltrans and headquarters, but then we got caught up in the FHWA queue. So that was one reason. The second reason, which started actually going back to the environmental phase, is that one of the properties has hazardous materials on it. And so part of our environmental document required that we perform additional testing. And part of the Caltrans requirements for right-of-way is that that testing be defined and the costs be defined before you appraise the property. And so we were not permitted to move forward with an appraisal until all of that was done, which required accessing the property twice, and then also performing the test, doing the procurement for that testing, and then also some some coordination with the regulators. So that extended it. And then the third factor was vesting. While this was going on, so it was overlapping, not sequential, Caltrans decided that they were going to have a change in direction. Presently, absent legislations, local agencies do not hear resolutions of necessity for a right-of-way on state highway systems unless they request it. They will not allow us as a JPA or local agency, I'm sorry, as a MPA, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, to hear it, and they questioned whether our commission had the authority. And so there was different discussions about that, and then in the end, because they are changing direction and they have now changed their opinion about our authority, we had to develop language for a cooperative agreement, which went through layers and different levels at Caltrans, so that also took a long time. So those are the three main reasons for the 1-year delay. Here's our current schedule. We've completed the environmental. Our design right-of-way will be completed in February of 2017. I added a line here. Construction we have down is 2017. What I'd like to do is let you know that our construction phase will start in 2017, but what that phase does is it also includes seeking our funding, so going back for allocations and obligations, and it's going to be sequential again. So groundbreaking should occur somewhere around fall of 2017. And then our end of construction would be August 2019. We have spent about $2.4 million on our environmental phase. Our design and right-of-way combined is about $32.4 million. And it is comprised of a mix of federal, state, and local funds. For our construction phase, we have programmed $51.4 million. Again, a mix of state, federal, and local money. The topic that you heard pertains to the STIP grant funding, which is the $22.6 million. Because the project had been delayed, those funds were programmed in the previous fiscal year. And so by reprogramming them into the next fiscal year, all we were doing was aligning it with the actual schedule. So it was just putting it in a placeholder that it needed to be.
So the funding was never removed from this project. It was just adjusted to another fiscal year. Okay.
Yeah, again, if we, because our board of directors have authorized that we hear resolutions on state roads, we may be able to gain some of the time that we've lost. And if that happens again, we will look at our funding plan. And two of the fund types, the STP and the Measure I, we have a little more flexibility on, and so we can do some rearranging at that time. So that basically concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does council have any questions for Ms. Beaucamp? Councilmember Wilson?
Yes. The item that had to do with some additional environmental testing, what was the specific on that? Was it the school, or, I mean, you don't have too many areas there that you've...
It involved a fire at a location where there had previously been a business.
Okay.
So some of those contaminants were released.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mayor Pro Tem?
I guess what I'm interested in is understanding because what I was listening to, well, what was Measure I and what was Caltrans money, and then the other is new information for me because this isn't my area of expertise. But I guess listening to, I would be interested, I guess, in how we could avoid or accelerate the breakdown we had on, who had the authority to be the hearing agency on this matter, and if there could be something to remedy that. Maybe a spot legislation or something, because and I appreciate this and I understand where Sandbag is, but we're in a position where we declared a fiscal emergency, and now we're bobbing our heads above water, and we're really looking at this to be able to do some economic development, and that is putting us backward, and we already had about a 5-year gap of where our needs are in revenue to where we are today, and now we're looking at 6 years out. So I just want you to hear from me expressing that this is just really critical for us. But again, I do understand where you're at, and I'm just throwing out some information from my perspective.
I think the only thing I could add would be basically that we are looking at ways of advancing and Caltrans has maintained their schedule and design, so plans will be reviewed.
Councilmember Hussey.
2 things. What's the guarantee it won't be delayed again?
At this point, as far as anticipated delays, we haven't confronted any. I think one of the things, because our board has taken that action and we may be able to gain time, if there is a delay, it would be consumed in that gain. So I really don't think that it would be any delay beyond this.
And another thing, Mayor, the local businesses that are being affected by that, were they aware of this delay, and how's this going to affect them on this delay?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
The local businesses that, when you're doing, where the roundabout's at, where the garages, there's a pet grooming place there and stuff. Did you inform those local businesses about the delay in this construction on this? Because some, I don't know if they're making like arrangements to be moving, now they're going to be delayed another year, if they're going to go ahead and leave. Will that fall under you, or did you
No, it does
inform
fall
them?
under me, but we are using the current information that we have, and so this information, we've only been able to make offers, I believe it was late spring, early summer, so the information we had already calculated into that. So we're okay in terms of time. As far as negotiations, we have appraisers and acquisition agents that are talking to the businesses, and we have actually talked to the city about some open areas that you have here for relocation. We, at the last resort, but we will be heading towards resolution of necessity. And what that does is basically start the time clock for access to those properties, if that's what your concern is. And so that will be set. It doesn't preclude us from continuing conversation with the property owners or business owners. We can still do so. It doesn't mean we necessarily have to go to court, but it does guarantee us a possession date.
All right, thank you.
Did you have?
I think I'm good.
Okay, Councilmember Wilson.
Just a quick note, Mayor. The reason why we had brought up this issue at the meeting was because we needed some clarification about when the money was going to be available, and it appeared as if, since the money had been moved forward, even though I realize it may be in one single bag as far as you guys are concerned, we didn't hear anything so far as the money being available immediately when it was needed. And so I asked that question of your representative, and at that point your representative said that they could not guarantee that the money was going to be available. That's why I'm glad that, Ms. Beecham, that you are now telling us that the money will be available when it's needed.
Yeah, and just want to address that quantity that we need will be available. There might be some shifting that needs to occur, but we're still striving for the overall construction.
I do have a question.
I have a record of programming here. If you had any specific questions beyond that.
Councilmember Mitchell, you had a question?
Thank you, Mayor. I believe I heard you say that the federal STP and the Measure I funds are available now. It's the state STP and the RIP that's, is that, so, but that's a fairly large amount of money for us to have a variable with, and. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Andrea Zurek. Is this working?
You have a little voice like me.
There you go.
Going in and out here.
Director Molina can give you a tip on how to get that. There you go.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my name is Andrea Zurek. I'm the Director of Fund Administration and Programming at Sandbag. And the risk, we did spend some time talking about the risk of the STIP funds at the board meeting in October. STIP funds, while Sandbag has the allocation authority, we decide what projects receive STIP funds. We do not control those funds. Those are controlled by the California Transportation Commission. And we can't guarantee that when we go to the California Transportation Commission and ask for the funds, they will be able to make that allocation. What we can say is that we have other sources of funds available to backfill those funds if they're not available. And I, as staff, can't guarantee that those other sources will be available. That's up to the Sandbag Board of Directors, but the Sandbag has a 10-year delivery plan where we have 10 years worth of project funding available, and the projects that are prioritized for those fundings. Barton Interchange is obviously contained in that plan. It's one of our next projects that we expect to be ready for delivery, and it's typical for the Sandbag Board to fund projects as they are ready for delivery. If the STIP funding was not available when it was ready, Sandbag staff would take an item to the board and just make them aware of the risks that moving funding on to Barton Road would have on other projects. But as I said, it's typical that the board would fund the projects that are ready for construction when they're ready for construction.
Councilmember Mitchell?
City Manager, I'm just thinking that it might behoove the city for us to create some sort of communication to whomever it is that would approve those STIP funds, kind of addressing our case and as Pro Tem Mayor stated, the urgency of why we need those funds. And
Yes, Councilperson Mitchell. And one of the things the council recently did...
Mr. City Manager?
Yes, sorry, Mayor. One of the things that the council, action the council took several months ago was the hiring of Interwest. And so Interwest is actually acting as our staff to attend those various meetings. And they alerted us to this report, and that's when the mayor and council person Wilson, who attended the meeting on behalf of the mayor, and I and Interwest appeared before the Sandbag board to address the city's concerns. So we are attending those meetings on a regular basis to let Caltrans and Sandbag know about our concerns and the importance of this project.
okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you, by the way.
I appreciate your presentation. Thank you very much for being here. I'm going to open this to public comment. Are there any requests to speak on this item? I see a hand being raised. All right. If you'd like to speak on this item, please go ahead and come forward to the lectern and tell us your name.
Tricia Farley, and does Sandbag work with Riverside County too? Or is this just San Bernardino?
This particular project is a Sandbag project. It's a San Bernardino County project.
Okay. Because it includes negotiating about costs of putting through commerce, et cetera. And we've been basically misled for years here in Grand Terrace about the circulation plans in the general plan and what's possible. And we had a big circus about the Outdoor Adventure Center, and they put in the high school, both of which required that they pay attention to updating their general plan and circulation, which were not done properly. And then they also were talking about, well, maybe we'll get an off-ramp from the freeway from Commerce. And it all needs to be coordinated. The high school was put in big commercial buildings and...
Ms. Farley? Ms. Farley, did you have a comment on this particular item and for this council? I mean, if you'd like to speak to Sandbag staff, you can address them in a letter, or you can go to their offices. If you would please, if you would please.
I would love for them to stay for items 8 and 9 because they relate very much to what's been happening in Grand Terrace and the coordination of...
Ms. Farley, Ms. Farley, did you have something you wanted to say about this item to this council?
Yes.
Oh, then go ahead and say it and address it to us. You were not speaking to us.
I'm speaking to all of you.
Okay, so please tell me. You're concerned about this project that you just heard about. What is your concern about this project?
Commerce, which they're talking about funding for part of that.
They're talking about Commerce Way as it would connect up to Vivienda.
Right.
And not past where it is right now, where it ends. That they're looking at the way that it comes up to Vivienda. Is there a concern with this project that you would like to express?
Well, there's a coordination between Riverside County and San Bernardino County and Grand Terrace that needs to occur and help pay for this. And that's what I was trying to point out.
Okay, so I'm understanding that you're saying that we need to coordinate with Riverside County and San Bernardino County and the city.
Money that should have come in from different things that has not come in.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, thank you very much. Any other requests to speak on this item? Okay. If not, I'll bring it back to council for a motion. Staff is asking us to receive and file the sandbag update.
A motion to approve staff's recommendation.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion and second to receive and file. Please vote.
Motion passes 5 ayes. Council members Hussey, Wilson, Mitchell voted aye. Mayor Pro Tem Robles voted aye. Mayor McNable voted aye.
Thank you. Next item is an update for the I-215 Barton Road Interchange Project and council direction. May we have a staff report, please?
Members of the City Council. Is this working? There we go. So this is a report to the council on the status update of the I-215 freeway as it pertains from our consultant from Interwest, Theron Roshan. He's been attending the PDT meetings on behalf of the city. He's been meeting with different entities that he needs to meet with. And so he started late September, I think, and he's been attending meetings and compiling all this information. And so what he's doing this evening is providing us an update to the council on the various pieces of the project. And also there are certain items that he'll talk about where he's going to ask for some council input. And so with that, I'm going to introduce Theron Roshan, and he'll provide the staff report.
Thank you.
Mayor, City Council members, I'm learning this. I'm a civil engineer with Interwest, and I want to say at the onset, it's been a pleasure working with Sandbag to help out the project and keeping the city's interests in mind. And what I wanted to do tonight is kind of give you an update on and some more detail on the project. There are some input items that we need from the council, and then also lay out some steps that will be coming back to you later for council action. So with that, I'll jump into this. So Paula described the schedule, but I want to go into a couple other details here. In about March, the 95% design will be complete. And concurrent with all of this is the right-of-way acquisitions and the business relocations. And the goal there is February of 2017. Before they can start the construction, they have to have every single parcel and property completely settled, okay? So when they mention the resolutions of necessity, that starts the clock to assure that that schedule is not missed, going to your comments earlier. The other thing that's unique about this project, this is one of 6 pilot projects that had special legislation that the design process has the contractor working over the shoulder with the Caltrans engineers. So while the traditional design process is you complete the design, you go out to bid, you get bids, and then you start the construction. Here the contractor is coming up with innovation and ways to save time. So I think the construction will be much faster than it would be in a normal bid-build scenario. So that's a good thing on the schedule. with the construction start in 2017 and a 2-year construction period, so we won't be finished with construction until the summer of 2019. So that's the current schedule. More detail will come out on that as the design moves forward. So on the right-of-way side of things, there are 38 parcels within the city that either need a partial acquisition or a full acquisition of property. Currently, we have 2 properties that are in escrow, so they've reached agreement, and they're in escrow right now. Of the 38, 19 of them have a business relocation. And so that was, the goal is to find properties within Grand Terrace for them to relocate into. And that's part of the offer, the legal offer that's made, is that they have to find similar properties to the business square footage and thing that are going on in the present condition. And again, the Sandbag right-of-way folks are trying to find those opportunity sites within Grand Terrace whenever possible. Once the building, or once the property is acquired, there will be building demolition that will take place. Sandbag has contractors on staff or under contract right now, so that once that escrow is cleared, that building will have security provided, and then the demolition will occur very quickly. That way there isn't this visual blight or attractive nuisance that occurs in the community. So they choreographed that very well. A little bit down on the landscape features, this is the fun part of the project, and I must say that it's going to be an attractive facility. Of course, there's always some things that, and these are part of the items we want to bring back to you, give your input, that might enhance this interchange to make it an entry statement to the city of Grand Terrace, encouraging businesses and things of that nature. So some of the features on the bridge and the walls, we have a great opportunity. The retaining wall and sound walls that are already in on 215, they're going to continue that treatment that you can see here with the embossment, the rail theme, the adobe themes. There will be color and stain on the structure. The fencing on the structure will be black vinyl covered and have the archways there. In the state right-of-way, the on and off-ramp areas, there will be colored gravels and wool mulching patterns, and I have a slide that will show you a little more detail on that. And then the roundabout itself, you saw some concepts earlier, and I'll go through that. So one of the things that we're looking at, the entry statement, is to have some sort of parapet wall on the abutments, all 4 quadrants of the bridge. And the thought was that it could mirror the mountain shape that's going to be in the roundabout and have the city logo in there. So at the present time, Caltrans has developed a thematic palette, shall we say, for all of 215. And they're not open to including this kind of vertical parapet wall as an entry statement. They are open, however, to the logo being placed on the bridge structure. And the view shed is not only from the freeway, but it's also from the resident, local street as well. So that's one thing we want to get input on is that the kind of feature that the city is interested in. Now, the second part of that is funding of that. We don't have cost estimates of what these would be. We've had some preliminary conversations with Sandbag about their participation in that. And then finally, we have the Caltrans. We have to get some sort of variance from Caltrans to allow that. Okay. Moving on to some of the other features, this is from the freeway underside. So just to highlight, the columns will have some sort of texture to them. On the exterior girder of the bridge, there'll be a colored texture, very attractive, and along with the fence there as well. So on the landscaping, so initially the project had landscaping in it. Because of the drought, the governor had a direction that no landscaping can be placed with the project. That's statewide. The irrigation, however, for the local street medians will be designed and installed. And typically Caltrans has a completely separate project for the installation of landscaping after the interchange is completed. That's pretty typical. So Sandag is responsible to fund that future highway planting project, and assumably it would be a drought-tolerant kind of landscaping. And so at Sandag's direction, we want Caltrans to prepare the planting plan to give to either the city to bid that project or the later project bid by Sandag. So that's just kind of the game plan for the highway planting. But what do we plant? I think there's a great opportunity to have something blue out there that would mirror the Blue Mountains. And this is just some typical kind of flowers. Certainly we want to look at materials that are going to be drought tolerant and handle the temperature requirements, things like that. So on the landscaping for this is a bird's eye view of the off-ramp, and you can see it has these wave patterns through the on-off-ramp area. It has a combination of gravels, different kinds of wood mulch, rock blankets, interlocking pavers, and some hydroseed area for stormwater. So the other part I want you to be aware of that this will, probably in this area, it's still being worked out, there will be some detention of stormwater that will occur there. So there'll be times, and don't be alarmed, there'll be times where that's going to fill up with water, and it's designed to do that. So, but very attractive. It'll certainly be interesting as people enter and exit the freeway, and the breaking up of the colors and the different kinds of mulch and rock treatments and the pavers at the roundabout. So this was the concept that your council approved back in June of 2015. There were several options that were made available. If we zoom in closer on it, you can see some of the vignettes of the kind of treatments that will be out there in that roundabout. And certainly the Slate Mountain silhouette with the Blue Mountains is the centerpiece of that. Just as a sidebar, that's kind of a safety feature. With roundabouts, you don't want to have a clear path through the roundabout. The motorists approach and they realize they have to do something. They have to divert, and that slows them down. And so you want something vertical that's in there anyway. But again, very attractive. The landscaping, again, could be a later phase. At the present time, the design will not have landscaping, but the irrigation will be installed. So the next item to discuss is the street lighting. So what's proposed at this time is the standard Caltrans street lights. So we have, you can't see very well, but there's 3 here on the bridge, 1, 2, 3. And then at the roundabout, there'll be street lighting at the off-ramps. And these are the standard gray steel poles with the luminaire on a mast arm. Okay, nothing decorative. But there are decorative examples out there. This happens to be one in the area. So the rub is that this is something that the city would have to fund if they want to do something decorative out there. And Caltrans provided us a cost estimate for replacing the 8 standard streetlights with the decorative ones is around $80,000. There's also some signage out there that we have to replace because of the expansion it's going to affect, and one at the wall in front of the high school, and then the other at the RV park. And so they provided us some examples of how that sign can be replaced. There could either be these metal letters that are attached by studs on the wall. There could be a carved letter in a rock that's placed on the wall, or you can use form liners and put something in there. And so that's something Sandag and Caltrans needs to know. What's your council preference on what kind of sign entrance goes with, what kind of treatment we want for that sign? Another thing to discuss is the Barton Road overlay that is funded. It goes from Vivienda to Mount Vernon. And one of the things we wanted to see if there was the opportunity to include it in the interchange project and take advantage of that economy of scale. With a larger project, you will get favorable bids because it's part of something larger. But we have to delay that overlay in order to take advantage of that. And so one of the things we did was accelerated the pavement condition survey that we're doing for the city to find out what's the present condition of the road, and in 2 years, will that road deteriorate to the point where it needs something more than an overlay. What happens is this road they reach a tipping point, and then they deteriorate very quickly. And thankfully, we're at a condition of about 58, and so it can tolerate waiting for inclusion in that project. But again, we need council direction. Is that something we want to pursue, working cooperatively with Caltrans and Sandbag? And finally, the overlays in the Caltrans project will use something called rubberized asphalt, which uses recycled tires. It's a quieter pavement. It's green pavement from the recycling point of view, but it's a longer lasting pavement, so it defers a lot of maintenance. Studies I've read show that it defers maintenance by about 7 years longer than conventional asphalts. On the utility side, all the utilities have to be relocated prior to the project bidding. And the sewers in Grand Terrace are owned by Grand Terrace, but you have I think it's a 60-year lease with the city of Colton to operate and maintain it. And so the payment for the relocation and the design will come from Sandbag, but we'll be coming back to your council with a three-party agreement with Sandbag, Colton, and yourselves. Also, there's a proposal that has a little more detail that we have to flesh out, but Southern California Edison wants to underground 3 poles on Barton Road near the Shell station, which is great. You get that visual light. But they're only eligible for cost of an aerial-to-aerial relocation. Caltrans looks at an aerial to an underground as a betterment, and therefore it's not eligible for their agreement cost. So what would happen if that's desirous of the city to have that increment difference between an aerial-to-aerial and aerial-to-underground? The city has what they call Rule 20 money, which is Southern California Edison's undergrounding program. And so we'll come back to your council about that once we get the hard numbers on what that's going to cost and have something for you on that. Finally, a maintenance agreement will come back to your council. And in the after condition, the shaded area shown will be the city's responsibility to maintain that pavement and the streetlights. The Caltrans will maintain the structure, the bridge structure, obviously, but there'll be an agreement that comes back that kind of just lays out who's responsible for maintenance. So with that, questions you have and any direction on the items that we brought forward?
Will you give a quick recap on the items that you want direction on tonight and those that will be coming back to us at another time?
The first one was the parapet walls. Is that something that the entry statement, something to pursue and come back, see about payment?
Okay, so we don't have a cost associated with that tonight. You're just wondering if we're interested in knowing how much it costs.
How strongly you feel about it, and knowing that currently the answer is we can do the logo, but we're not going to fund or entertain the idea of these entry statement walls.
Okay. And then the other items were the $80,000 light poles. I get.
That's one.
Okay.
I wrote down action items on my slides.
Oh, signs. So the enhancement of the signs or
The types of material on the signs. Do you want the metal attachments, the hard stone look, or the form liners?
and we need to decide that tonight.
Well, probably not.
Is there a cost associated with any of the choices?
It's funded fully by Sandbag, so it's their cost.
Okay, so the sign replacement is fully funded. We just need to state which is preferable. Okay.
Mayor, may I recommend that staff get an opportunity to meet with Mr. Rocha and bring a comprehensive list back to the council within the next couple of weeks?
I think that would be nice.
Okay. So we will meet with you, Theron, and we will come back to the council with a comprehensive list for them to choose. Okay.
On all of the items?
On all the items,
Okay,
yes.
okay, very good. Any questions of Mr. Roshan on his presentation? Mr. Wilson, Councilmember Wilson.
Just one question. I noticed that Fontana had a real whiz-bang bridge supplied to them over the Sierra 10 circumstance. How much of that did they fund?
Typically, and please jump in if I'm going to speak out of turn, but typically those are locally sponsored projects where the city is paying for it. Perhaps there's a development that's triggered those things. So that's my understanding is how a lot of those architectural treatments are added because they're funded by the city. In this instance as well, Caltrans has an approved corridor master plan for the architectural treatments. And so it is a high level, admittedly. It's going to be very pleasant, but it doesn't have some of the features like the decorative streetlights. Did I speak correctly, or do you want to add to that?
He's absolutely correct. Those particular projects, Cherry, Citrus, Riverside, have those aesthetic features, all had contributions. And they range from 25 to 33% of the total project cost.
I thought that might be important later when everybody looks at it and goes, how come ours doesn't look like that? So, thank you.
Well, yours will look nice, but unfortunately, you don't have a contribution.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. I'm going to open this up to public comment. Please comment on this particular item if you'd like. And I have one request to speak for. Patricia Farley. Please remember to speak to this item. Thank you.
Have letters that can't be stolen, like we did here in Grand Terrace for the signs. And I'd like to point out that there is large development in High Road that is going to be coming through this intersection and using our streets. And that's where I'm concerned about the cost and also the fact that they're delaying till 2019 completing it, which affects commerce and everything else in Grand Terrace.
Thank you for your comments. Any other requests to speak?
Jeffrey McConnell, Walnut Avenue. Yeah, I was going to mention the Honey Hills letters that got stolen. But the other thing I always like to, and a lot of the people in the city always concerned about too, is that all these treatments get treated with an anti-graffiti coating. Thank you.
Thank you.
Terry Lambert, and as far as all the rock goes that's being put in there, I just want to make sure that something is going to be done to treat so there's no weeds, because on La Crosse Avenue, south of Barton Road, they put rock all in that area, and the weeds are horrible. I look at them every day.
Thank you. That's my concern as well. The beautiful landscaping and then the weeds come up. Any other comments? Okay, seeing no takers, I'll bring it back to council for their consideration of staff recommendation, which is to receive an update and provide direction. At this point, it's providing direction to come back to us with these items.
Is that a motion?
I know, Councilmember Mitchell, you'd like to make that motion, right?
I would like to make that a motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Yes. Second.
Motion and second, please vote.
Motion passes, 5 ayes. Council members Hussey, Mitchell, Wilson voted aye. Mayor Pro Tem Robles voted aye. Mayor McNabb voted aye.
Okay. I'd like to again thank the Sandbag staff for being here tonight with your presentation, and Mr. Roshan, thank you also for your presentation. We'll move to item 7, which is discussion of roadway-related projects. May we have a staff report, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you very much. Yes, that's the one. Thank you, Cynthia. So the city manager and staff wanted to provide the council an item that just discusses roadway-related issues just generally throughout the city. There's been Staff is working on different projects, and some of these items have come before staff based on council comment or resident comment, and we are working on them, and we haven't provided any updates, and so we wanted to take that opportunity to do that this evening. And so that's what we'd like to do. And so first of all, one of the things that we're working on, and council did get somewhat of an update about a month ago, and it was a very in-depth discussion about the pavement management plan and what that process is and what it does for the city as far as what it provides us for scheduling and prioritization. But just to give you more of a status update, IntraWest, which is the group that Theron Roshan works for, we do have a contract with them to provide a pavement management plan for the city. And so they did begin their field inspections of our roadways in early October. They're about 55% complete. And so they also, if the council will recall, part of that contract was to purchase a Street Saver program, software program. And they've done that, and they are currently inputting all the field data that they're assembling or assessing as they do their field work. And what happens is after all that information is inputted, the roadways will then be given a pavement management index number, and based upon that that rating, that identifies the extent of the roadway work that may need to be done to that particular roadway segment. And so they're underway. They're 55% complete, and they are inputting. And at the end of that process, we will have a complete report with also a proposed 5-year and 10-year schedule for roadway maintenance. The other half of that contract is that IntraWest is also doing an assessment of our curb ADA ramps, our sidewalk frontages, our sidewalks, and our curb and gutter frontages. So they're doing an assessment. They've done about 162 curb ramps throughout the city. They're photographing and documenting all of that. They're also, as soon as they finish that process, they're going to go back and assess our sidewalk conditions, our curb and gutter. And one of the things I do want to note on the sidewalk assessment, the council may recall that at the last meeting with some of the one-time money we have from last fiscal year, there was some money, a program proposed to hire a consultant to do just this sidewalk assessment for us. And so we were pleasantly surprised to find that it was actually included as part of this project. And so that negates the need for that cost, which means we can save that and possibly use that elsewhere. But it will, what we can do is then, once we get this program, is start looking at repairs and replacement of sidewalks. And if the council has any particular questions with regard to the pavement management plan that they'd like to ask Theron Roshan, he can do that. If not, I'll just continue on with some of our other items.
Do my colleagues have any questions? No, please continue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The other items has to do with some concerns that we received regarding certain segments in our city. So one of those was Palm Avenue and Country Club Lane, and what had come before staff was that there was concerns with visibility given vehicles that park along the roadways. And so we had our traffic consultant, and I'm a little remiss, we have our traffic consultant from TEP Engineering, Craig Newstetter, and he's here, and he is helping staff with these two street segments. And so based on those visibility concerns, TEP went out and did a study to determine what would need to be done. And one of the recommendations was to install stop signs to assist with a visibility. And so we are moving forward with that recommendation. There will be, basically that T intersection will now become a three-way stop, and so we will install east and westbound stop signs. We have staff, our maintenance staff has gone and widened the sidewalk to ensure ADA access, where the stop sign will be placed on the north side for westbound traffic. We are scheduling the striping contractor to come out and do the striping, and then we will install the stop signs. For the purposes of this meeting, staff also send out direct mailed notices to the properties that are highlighted on this map along Palm Avenue, and so those are direct notices mailed out. Our other, I'll go on to the next street segment we're looking at. The other street segment we're looking at is Oriole and Van Buren Avenues, and we've had persons come to the council meetings, and we've also had calls, and the council has also expressed concerns regarding speeding. And so staff has been working on this, and one of the first things we decided to do is try to take a phased approach to trying to address the speeding concerns. And as the council knows, on Van Buren Avenue, as you travel westbound, there is a grade, and so you do have some limited visibility as you go westbound. And so what we've done to try to make it more visible is we've gone in and done some street markings. We've done some center lines on both Oriole and Van Buren. We've done some crosswalks. We've done some stop limit lines. We've have had stenciled on the streets, stop ahead. We also put a sign. And then we installed some temporary signs in the center of the street just to see how that would work. And I don't know that we've really got a good assessment on that. We're finding that actually we're losing our signs, and so we need to take a different approach on that. But one of the things that I've been working with Mr. Newstetter on is what are our next steps on this project? And so what he's recommended is that we do a speed profile to capture data on motorist speeds. And this is over a 24-hour period. So not only does it give us the information with regard to speed, it also gives us information as to the hour of the day that we may be experiencing speeding as opposed to other times of the day. So I think that's going to be very helpful for us. Using this data, we'll be able to evaluate other methods to address the speeding. So the speed survey will first tell us, when's the speeding occurring, and that it's actually going to document that we're having speeding issues other than, resident and council concerns. And then from there, we'll be able to then determine what type of actual physical alterations may need to be done to the street to try to address the issue if we do find that there's an issue. And for purposes of this meeting, we also sent direct mailed notices to residents that we highlighted generally between Michigan and Crane Street. And, I'm sorry, that is a leftover from a different project. So there's no resolution to adopt, but we do, if the council has any questions regarding these street segments or the pavement management plan, staff, Theron, and Craig Newstetter would be available to answering those questions.
Questions at this time?
I have a question.
Councilmember Hussey.
Thank you, Sandra, for the update. But, as far as Oriole and Van Buren, how many more tests do we need to have? People are speeding up and down there. You have residents concerned. We had a car run through a house. I don't think we need more tests. We need to keep going with the next phase. I think all these tests is just delaying it. I remember the engineer also had one time, they had a counter out there, how many cars are going back and forth. I know the sheriffs have been out there giving tickets. I've personally seen people run stop signs. I know you need data, but sometimes, our residents here are their data that we need. They wouldn't be coming here with this concern and bringing it to the city, and we're just going to tell them we need more data. I think we need to look at the approach and see what, we could do. That stop sign that you had, it was nice, but, I've been out there moving cones because the kids have been stealing the cones. They're moving them all over the place. I know we had the tree trimming. I know we had the little baby steps. I think we need to start taking bigger steps in this concern. We got residents right here, right now, that are worried about it. And for us as a city, for another data collection, I think, we're bringing too much red tape, my personal opinion, on this street here for that. So I believe we should definitely go to the next step and see what we could do before somebody gets hurt, some child gets hurt, plus it's also a school bus stop. We need to really concern. Personally, like I said, I've seen it. I've seen people fly up the street. They think because it's a little hill, they got to go faster. People use our city as a thoroughfare, and that's one of the main streets that they use. And I think we need to stop the data study personally and move forward. We had enough concern with the residents. We had emails. We had meetings. All the staff have been, they're right here right now tonight with their concerns. And I think we just need to go forward with this. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Mitchell.
Sandra, I believe in like the last 2 years we did a speed study because I think there was some sort of either increase or decrease of speed through there. I think it was like about 2 years ago, maybe.
The speed zone survey that was done, it surveyed certain segments of the city, and we did verify that this particular segment was not done as part of that speed zone survey. So,
Did you also, can you verify that we didn't increase or decrease the speed in that area as a council action item?
well, because that street segment wasn't surveyed, there wasn't a recommendation to either increase or decrease. But we have modified speeds in the other areas that we've surveyed. But this particular segment was not surveyed.
Okay. I recall us having that as an agenda item, not maybe within the last 2 years. I definitely agree with Councilmember Hussey's opinion and statement tonight. I've talked to I'm looking at the residents on more than one occasion and consider Stephanie a friend. There's definitely a need for it, but in the same token, I want to make sure that we as a city do not incur any liability by marking or putting additional safety features in that may cause additional accidents. So what sorts of, that speed study will give us both the preclusions of what we can't do and what we can do to ensure the safety of all residents?
And Mr. Newstetter can speak to this better than I can. Oh, he's a traffic, Mr. Craig Newstetter. He's the traffic engineer. So he can better explain the approach that we're going to take with the speed survey, excuse me, the speed profile.
Madam Mayor, members of council, my name is Craig Newstetter.
Mr. Newstetter, will you please speak into the microphone?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
My name is Craig Newstetter. I've been working as the consulting city traffic engineer for the city of Grand Terrace since 1999. I know we haven't had an opportunity to meet before, and appreciate the opportunity to discuss with you tonight this particular item. This speed profile survey that we're going to do for Van Buren, in fact, I think the count work has already been completed. That is a very minor cost, very short duration type analysis where we can identify if there's a particular speeding pattern on the street, to what extent traffic is speeding over the current speed limit, and maybe an indicator whether or not we need to modify the speed limit on Van Buren. That may be one result. It will also give us, when are the peak periods, when is the speeding the greatest problem. This can assist the sheriff's deputies in terms of enforcement if we've identified a particular time of day, if it's associated, for example, with when school starts or ends or whatever. So it's an activity, as I said, the counts have already been completed, so it's just a matter of review of the data. And it will help us make a determination of what other actions are required. I can assure you that whatever we recommend is going to be consistent with adopted traffic engineering standards, and certainly we won't recommend anything that would increase the liability to the city. There are active traffic calming measures. There's a whole range of activities, actions that we can consider in addition to enforcement, more aggressive enforcement. So I think that Sandra and I understand the interest of council is to move forward in that direction, and that's what we will do. But I can assure we're not going to recommend anything that's going to increase the liability to the city.
What are some of these traffic calming measures that you're considering?
Well, for example, we could, the general concept that they're going to be relying on is to try to reduce the width of the travelway. We know that there's a direct correlation. If you have a broad street with few stops, few impediments to the driver. That actually encourages the driver to go faster. And in this particular situation where we have the slope, that is also a factor, encouraging drivers to drive at a faster rate. So the objective is how can we reduce the perception or actually reduce the width of the travelway. There are different concepts such as what are called bulb outs or chokers. We can modify the radius of the curb returns at the intersection that will neck down the travelway. So that's the general direction that we're heading in, is physical features that will reduce the perception of the width of the travelway or actually reduce the width of the travelway to the driver.
Are you considering speed bumps on this street?
The particular location on Van Buren, it's going to be problematic to consider speed humps because the recommended practice is that essentially you should be considering speed humps on level streets where there's a grade, a significant grade on the street. The recommended practice is not to provide speed humps. This is an example where we would avoid making a recommendation that would potentially increase the liability to the city.
What does that grade do if you install a speed hump?
Well, there's reported incidents that you actually, with the combination of a relatively steep grade and a speed hump, you can actually get the vehicles that are proceeding in the adverse direction to actually project into the air, and in some cases, roll over and things like that. So it's definitely the recommended practice is to avoid speed humps on steep grade streets. I know that there are locations where that's done, but that is inconsistent with recommended practice.
Councilmember Mitchell.
What is the time frame in which you'll come back with the study?
Sandra and I haven't really discussed that yet. This was intended as a status report, but we can probably get back to you within 30 days.
Councilmember Wilson.
Mayor, might I propose that we only have so many north-south streets in this town can be considered raceways, Michigan being one and Mount Vernon being the other. But Observation Drive is kind of an odd situation, and it contributes to this circumstance on, going down Van Buren. I mean, once you get really going, and then all of a sudden you've got a raceway like Riverside Raceway, and you make a big curve there and then really hit it hard, and you go ripping down that street, and all of a sudden you forget you've got a stop sign down there. So I wonder if it would be worthwhile for us to at least consider previous data on Observation Drive and how it might contribute to this difficulty on Van Buren.
Yes, I can see. There's probably some teenager out there that's really enjoying the ride. We want to get rid of that problem.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, I want to thank Councilman Huffey for his strong advocacy on this issue. I do support, though, that we have to do the study because for speed, we got to have that data. But I'm glad Councilman Wilson brought up observation because I live off of that. And going to church is how I came aware of what happens on that street. And I realized people are using that to avoid the main streets. And so they gain steam on observation and they go down that hill. And so I started observing them and they're going towards Riverside. So that's clearly going on. But I think we are clear on what direction we're going on that. I guess for on Palm and Country Club Lane, I need a visual. I don't understand how these stop signs are going to look and work. I wish I would have had that.
Okay, well, Palm is your east-west street, and Country Club is, it tees in.
Mm-hmm.
We do have
Because I thought there was a stop on Country
Yeah,
Club.
yeah, there is a stop on,
Okay.
on Country Club right now, and we've observed that due to what are called corner site distance constraints, that it would be advisable to put stop signs on the eastbound and westbound approach so that we have what's called an all-way stop intersection. Here again, this is entirely consistent with the Caltrans MUTCD guidelines, and so we're not increasing the liability to the city. In fact, we're following adopted policy by implementing the stop signs on Palm.
So on Palm and Country Club, there's going to be stop signs going going east up the hill?
Yes.
And going?
West.
Okay, all right. And that's why all the red curbing that went on front of the apartments. Okay. I can't see that. Yeah.
Any other questions with regard to that particular project?
No.
Okay. Councilmember Mitchell?
None.
Councilmember Wilson? Councilmember Hussey? Okay. Thank you. At this time, I'll open up to public comment. Do we have requests to speak forms, Madam Clerk? Request to speak from John Van Kampen.
John Van Kampen, and I've lived on Van Buren since 1989, and it's been a thoroughfare since then. 2 or 3 things concern me that I'd like to address right now with the council, Madam Mayor. The speed limit on parts of that street is 30 miles an hour. That's a residential neighborhood with children and grandchildren. Unnecessary. Should be 25 all the way up, all the way down. No, it's not. Also, those current temporary stop signs are as much a hazard as they are a help. Someone's going to go blow through one of those at night and knock it out, or trying to avoid it, end up in a crash. And also, you talk about the liability to the city, but there's no bigger liability than having some type of fatality occur, because that's not a safe intersection and a safe street to be on. Councilman Hussey, I really appreciated your advocacy. I couldn't say it better. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next request to speak is Cassandra Ariano.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council people. I know you have to get your data, and I just wanted, while I was sitting here on my cell phone, not trying to be rude, but I was listening. In 5 quick minutes, I was able to pull up a Portland, Oregon Bureau of Transportation study that they have effective speed bumps on traffic crashes. They actually found that on streets that they installed speed bumps, 39% of streets that had the installed speed bumps, 39% of those, had to reduce crashes by 39%. And they also saw the severity of those crashes were reduced as well. I can get you that link as well to that study.
She mentioned there's a lot of hills around this area. I don't see why we can't put a speed bump as it starts to go straight away. I don't understand, I'm sorry, what she was saying. You know, I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. I've spoken to several of you on the council, and I'm so concerned with these speeders. I mean, even my 5-year-old has that, oh, please go fast, or he's not stopping. You know, I'm super concerned for their safety, along with the school bus stop. I mean, it's ridiculous. I've seen a couple of almost accidents within the last week. I'm fearful for one day they're going to get hit. I mean, my kids know not to go off the street, but what if someone jumps the curb? And they love being outdoors. And why should I keep them from enjoying their youth but being concerned about these nonsense drivers? Sorry, but
Thank you. I appreciate your comment. Will you also, Ms. Pope, please state your name for the record as well? So we.
I live on the corner of Van Buren and Orion. I have a big street with this lane that they love to play on. And I know I haven't been there as
actually have a recommendation to sell our homes, and we'd rather fix the problem than have the problem run us home.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate you being here to stay through all the other items to speak on this. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Your Portland study, was that Flat Road or Hillside?
Please come to the lectern. Thank you.
They don't specifically say. I read through it very quickly as I was sitting here. I'd love to read through it more and find out. I'd like to find out what streets specifically they were on to find out if they were hills and then we can sell them on.
Right, and the reason I bring that up, because you heard the engineer saying, okay.
And like I said, I want to find out which streets, but I did notice that the severity of the crashes were reduced quite significantly.
Okay, thank you.
But like I was saying, there's the hill, and then it goes straight before that stop sign. There is quite a bit of a straightaway before the actual stop sign. What is the street? Nightingale, okay. Right there, I think that's when it really starts to go flat. Why can't we put a speed bump there?
I believe on DeBerry, they ended up putting a speed hump in front of the middle school there, because that was a flat part. So what I'm thinking, though, is that we do have our traffic engineer who is going to look at this. And as much as I know the statement was made about we don't want the liability to the city, we certainly don't want crashes. We certainly don't want people speeding. But if we ignore what engineering tells us about how to safely calm traffic, then we're going to have you coming back saying, why did you make things worse? And as much as it's a long process to go through this, and I really want us to move forward as quickly as possible, I want us to get it right.
Is there a cost to it? Are you guys worried about the cost of it?
I don't think at this point we're thinking costs. We are wanting to get it right.
Right. That have lived there on the street, and I know there's been mailboxes hit and cars have been hit. You know what I mean? And I've seen just the other day a delivery driver flew by, and this car was there. It was his right of way to go, and thank God, because my kids would have witnessed that accident.
Yeah.
You know, and a young teenager with his headphones and just no response. I don't know what else to do.
Okay. Again, thank you for your comments, and I do understand your concern. Any other requests to speak at this time?
Jeff number 1. Jeffrey McConnell, Walnut Avenue. Regarding this right here on Palm Avenue, I see where you're going to do the country club, or you're suggesting to, but if you go 2 streets to the right, that would be east. To the north is Preston, and I'm not sure what the street is across.
Dos Rios.
That is Dos Rios, okay. Speaking of cutting corners, a lot of people go through there. They come from down below the hill there, down in Cooley Ranch. They come up Barton and they cut over Preston, and I've sat open house on those new townhomes over there, and that is a road rally race, and they come right through there and then they hit Dos Rios. Would it be better to put the north-east-west stop signs, all-way stop signs at that intersection instead of Country Club? Because that's where the majority of the road rally races, right there. That's one of my suggestions.
Thank you.
And yeah, I'm aware of the speed bumps on the hill on Van Buren. I sat on a traffic ad hoc committee once with Craig years ago, but he didn't say that it couldn't be done. And if he also did mention that if there was a lot of calming measures such as narrow curves and lots of paint, why couldn't you do the same for a speed bump? Just calming measures, lots of paint, signs, flashing red lights. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor and council members, regarding the Michigan Avenue
And this is Jeffrey Allen that is speaking at this
Oh,
time.
yeah, it's Jeff Allen
Thank you.
on Brentwood Street. I mean, not Michigan Avenue, but the issue that we're discussing right now, this on Van Buren. You know, Vivian and Oriole, they're not unique to this city, the problems they're facing. I live on Brentwood, you live on Preston, and you absolutely know that it's a bypass, not just for avoiding Barton Road, Mount Vernon Exchange, but the 215 and the 10 Exchange. People going to Redlands and people going to Riverside come right down that street, and that's a school street. And I think, and then what Jeffrey mentioned about, you know, also the other streets, every street in Grand Terrace has this problem. And when I moved here in 16 years ago, there was an effort among the residents of Brentwood Street to do this exact same thing that these people want to do. And it took months and months and months, and we finally got 2 humps, not bumps, humps. We can't have bumps, but we can have humps, they said. They said we can't have bumps because it'll tear up a car that goes at that rate of speed. That's what Mr. Hilke said to us at our meeting. And so, I don't know, Doug, you might remember it because you were on Planning Commission back then. But the point is that we begged for traffic calming devices, narrow the streets, bring the curb out, and cut it down to 1 lane. You know, the types of things that this engineer has suggested. And the only thing we were told was, oh, we don't do that stuff in America. Well, you know what? I've driven all over this world in the largest trucks the U.S. Army has through traffic circles and all types of calming devices, and they work. The stop signs that you put at Tim's and Brentwood, people blow right through it. People use the humps. I invite you, come down Brentwood Street. They don't work. It's a huge waste of money because people use them, kids use them to get that roller coaster thrill, that whoop-de-doo, and listen to the kids laugh. Humps don't work, painted curbs don't work, and stop signs don't work. The only thing that really works are true traffic calming devices that block the traffic on these streets. Like this gentleman up here said, our neighborhood streets do not need to have 30 and 35 mile an hour speed limits. 20, 25 miles an hour is fine. These streets are not that long, and it doesn't take that long to get from the corner to your house. And you'll notice, I'm sure, you folks, the people that are speeding on your streets are the residents. Nobody is coming from Riverside so they can run races on Vivienda.
Mr. Allen?
You know? So, I'm sorry, Mayor. I just want the people to understand that they're not alone in this, and that this is an ongoing issue, and true traffic calming devices are what we need. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any others? Do we have a microphone for Ms. Forbes? I'll try. That's okay. She can bring you a microphone.
Thank you. I'd like to address Palm Avenue, Bobby Forbes, 1150 First Avenue. I'm concerned about where those cars can go that you're trying to park in Palm Avenue anymore. Do they have places to park in all those apartments? Because that's just the red curb painting alone is probably going to cause 6 to 10 cars not be able to park on Palm that live in that complex. People who live in the country club don't park there. It's the people that live in the apartments. And I don't think they have a place to go. So they live there. They have to park somewhere. They're not going to park at City Hall and walk up. Some do now. They park in the back half. But you don't want to fill your whole lot with their cars. That's a small way to carry groceries and babies and books and things. So that's one concern I have about putting the 2 extra stop signs on Palm Avenue. Regarding the traffic on Van Buren, it does go on everywhere. I actually sat on that committee years ago when Steve was here and Tom was here with Greg. And I think it was the grade regarding the speed bumps. The speed of the cars is 65 plus miles an hour all the time. My sister-in-law lives on that street. I remember that we had equipment out there checking the speeds, counting the cars. The increase, there's got to be a great increase in the traffic alone with homes coming in. Those people are going to work in Loma Linda and residents. And so the number of cars coming up there. So there has to be some solution. And certainly we don't need it to come to house control to
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I'm going to close public comment at this time and bring it back to council for their consideration of staff recommendation and more discussion. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I am interested, my daughter lived in Seattle, and it's hilly, and the small, narrow roads, but you know how you control the traffic? You had a roundabout every block. And I live off of Observation, and the streets don't quite meet. So those reels, when the junior high is getting out, forget it, you can't do anything. But the thing that's really unneighborly, when someone brought up it's your neighbors, on the side streets, Hampton and all those streets, is that you, Berger? So they just come out without stopping. They just roll out in front of you and proceed. I don't know if we can do some kind of, reminding neighbors to stop. But I also have a concern about where we're putting the stop sign because when I would take my children to school off of Brentwood, and this has been some years because the baby's turning 40 Thursday, people use Brentwood to avoid the traffic lights, so that is, an issue. The other thing too is every city manager I've sat and spoke to about those apartments, my son lives there, they're told by the city, get your cars out of there. Now, I don't know what the red curbs were, and I appreciate if staff, when you notice somebody, if you would give us a copy in our packet of the notices too, so we know who's being noticed. I had no idea what that's going there. My husband provides daycare for the kids. I don't even go there because I can't climb the steps. But he said, I'm just going to park there because he's 69 years old. So at the League of Cities, we're told that we control parking in cities on the streets. So we have to have permit parking and get some revenue or whatever, but we need to stop ignoring things. And we had a little bit of a delay on your issues because I think when the council people hear from you and we're discussing with staff, it wasn't quite moving as fast as we wanted to. But that being said, I think we just kind of have to have a global look at these things, and we're providing a bunch of input for you to look at. Thank you.
Councilmember Hussey.
Thank you. Thank you for coming up in your public comment. I know your pain on this, and all as council members, we all work together here. We all want the best for our residents. I think, I understand what the mayor is saying as far as we need to do these surveys pretty much as a CYA for the city. I think we need to expedite these surveys. We need to look at the big picture. We need to look at all options, not just focus on, let's do a stripe and that doesn't work, let's do this. Let's look at the big picture on here. What's the best case scenario for this? I agree with the residents. 35 miles an hour, it's crazy. All these streets should be 25 miles an hour. But then again, like Mr. Allen said, it all goes with respect for everybody's neighborhood too. Speeding. Every once in a while, maybe you're daydreaming that stop sign you go through, but our sheriffs, they're doing a good job. I see them giving tickets, but that's only a fraction. But, if we talk to our neighbors, it's a big thing too. Nobody talks to their neighbors. But, I admit, I'm out there, I yell at people speeding up and down the street. Nobody's stopped yet, but I still yell at them. But I know what the council's saying, and it's all of our concerns. It's not just me, it's every one of them. But we want the best for the residents here. But I would just like to see, Mayor, that we expedite this to the full extent. So I don't want to see anything happen to any residents here. And like I said, I live around that street. My street has issues, but I want to see what's taken care of there. I see the issues. I've seen the car go through the house. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. There's a bus stop there. And like I said, everybody thinks their own agendas are important when they're driving. God help us if something happens to somebody here. But I'd just like to expedite this as the fastest way possible that we can for these residents. Thank you.
Thank you. I like the thoughts that Councilmember Wilson shared about observation being part of this solution, because I don't think that that particular neighborhood is alone in its problems. And I think they generate from other areas. And so if part of the solution can come from looking at observation as well, I think that that's important. I would suggest on the Palm Avenue that we look at the alternative Dos Rios and Preston having the stops there. That might help with the parking situation at the apartment complex. I'm not sure. I don't know if that gets us the same result, but I would be interested in knowing if that's the possibility instead of the proposed on Country Club Lane. What other input was staff looking for at this time?
Madam Mayor, the input that the council's given us is sufficient for what was before them. So we'll take those the input and we'll go back and I'll have a discussion with Craig Newsitter. I agree with trying to expedite it to the extent that we can, and so I'll have a discussion with Mr. Newsitter about how we expedite to the extent we can.
So this will come back to us.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Before the end of the year.
Well, we only have one council meeting in December 8th, and so.
I know, and I know that we've been, as Mayor Pro Tem said, this has been extended, and I think some of that was because of our changes in city manager. And so, Mr. City Manager, would you like to?
Yes, Mayor. So if it is the desire of the council, this is the 10th, and so if we bring it back in 30 days, we may have to have a special meeting in December, maybe the third week of the second week in December. So it could be the 17th or so. We can certainly do that. We'll try to make the December the 8th meeting, but if not, we certainly come back to give you an update on this particular item.
Right. In that time of year, it's very difficult to have special meetings. So please do your best to come back at the December meeting that we have planned.
Absolutely.
All right. So this item, we motion to receive status report. And if I could have a second.
I'll second.
All right. Motion and second. Please vote.
Revote, please.
Revote.
Motion passes 5 ayes. Council members Hussey, Wilson, Mitchell voted aye. Mayor Pro Tem Robles voted aye. Mayor McNamara voted aye.
Thank you. At this time, we will take a 7-minute recess.
Yeah, of course, I yelled my son. Maybe he'll hear me then. Have a good
Okay.
night.
We'll make sure that, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Bobby.
Mr. Duffy, I'm getting a text right now that there are two speed limit signs. The signs have two different speeds on them.
We're,
Thank you for your comments on this. I look forward to seeing you during next meeting. Good night. Thanks for coming out. Van Buren.
how you doing?
Good, how are you?
How's the baby? How's business? Good, good. I see your truck. It's nice. Small, yeah. And I saw your new, yeah. Gotta put some more kids in.
He's getting to the terrible two stage, right?
He gets company.
No, actually, we asked him to long time. And then I go, do you want to share mommy? No. He doesn't even understand.
I hug her because that goes in there and splits us up.
Sure, absolutely. We'll get there. We'll get there. Okay.
We're looking at putting the block out, changing it. How do I know our property lines? I know where one is between me and my neighbor, but behind where our fence is, I know the property line markers are a couple feet past that.
You have to be very careful about that.
I know. We don't want to show that.
Yeah, because if you build in the wrong spot, then it can tear it down. So
Yeah, no. We don't want to build.
So that's why we'll have to start contacting.
Are you doing it yourself?
No, we're hiring a contractor, but I wanted to find out for sure. Yeah, we're doing it because the house behind us is down. So
Well, you could go into the building and ask them for the information. Now they're contractors or new contractors. So I told them the tornado hits us, get the car over there. I don't think that's that.
Okay.
all right.
Right. Thanks, guys.
Different chairs and seeing one rolls better than this one. This one needs a way or something. Whew.
See why cocoa, yogurt, almonds.
I've been using CYA for 30 some odd years. I slip every once in a while.
Getting it right at CYA are not
The Marine Corps
not mutually exclusive, but generally the CYA.
It was cold in the beginning, but that thing warmed up.
Cover your associate.
The heater should have kicked on already, I was just told.
Or CYC, cover your city.
Cover your city. Yes, but you said CYA.
All right, are we back? We're going to start back up. All right, we are on item 8. Thank you for the recess. Item 8 is Measure I, Capital Improvement Plan for FY 2015-2016 through 2019-2020. May we have a staff report, please?
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. As the Mayor indicated, this is the Measure I Capital Improvement Plan for fiscal year 2015-16 through 2019-2020. Just to give you a little bit of background information, this is a 5-year plan required by Sandbag for use of Measure I funds. In 2004, a 1.5% sales tax was approved by the voters of San Bernardino County, and so that is the funding source for the Measure I funding program. And so each year the city receives Measure I funds, and part of the program is for the city to approve a 5-year program for how we're going to use those funds as it relates to roadway improvement. The other thing I should tell council is that the Sandbag had requested that the city, all the cities, provide the 5-year CIP plan by the end of September. We asked for extension to October, but because we wanted to have this meeting to discuss roadway issues globally, we asked them to continue to allow us to have November to submit this item and the item that follows, item number 9. So the 5-year capital improvement plan, as indicated in the staff report, it's for 5 years. In the first year, well, let me back up a little bit. So historically, what the city's done when it programs how to use these Measure I funds is we've had discussions with the Public Works Director, and we've had discussions with our maintenance crew who's out in the streets and can give us an idea of the condition of our streets and what we should prioritize. And that's just historically how we've done it, but now we're having a pavement management plan prepared by our engineering consultants. And so they're actually going out and doing an assessment and indexing the condition of the pavement so that we can have a better understanding of the condition of our streets and how to better program them. And so my point to that is that with respect to the first fiscal year, which is Barton Road and McLaren Street, we had Interwest look at those streets first. And they've indicated that McLaren Street does warrant the first year rehabilitation project. And Barton Road can be done this first fiscal year, or if we're able to incorporate it into the I-215 project, the condition is such that it would hold out another 2 years. My point to this long story is that with respect to years 2, 3, 4, and 5, although we're proposing a program for those years, next fiscal year when we go through this process again, we'll have that PMP study done, and we can better plan that way. So for purposes of the 5-year plan that we are required to provide a Sandbag, we've identified these street segments for rehab projects, and then also we identified what's called categorical projects, where we won't really identify a particular project, but we've identified that some funding for ADA ramp improvements, and then also about $100,000 each fiscal year over the next 4 years for other type of roadway improvements, which could run a gamut of a number of things. And so with that, and I've gone through this already about how we'll implement or integrate the PMP into the process next fiscal year. So with that, I would ask the City Council to go ahead and take an action to approve the resolution, adopt the resolution approving the program, including the expenditure strategy. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to respond.
Any questions of staff? No questions at this time. Are there requests to speak? Thank you. Patricia Farley?
As you can see, these items about circulation have a great deal to do what I've been complaining about for decades, and the general plan that was not legally processed and done. And what I want to point out to you is you have these roads that you want to do. Then you have mention of commerce as maybe pay-as-you-go basis, and you intend to accumulate Measure 1 commerce extension, okay? The law requires, and what I and many others have been asking for years, is that you are obligated to collect developmental impact fees as these projects are going through. And the city has been incredibly negligent about that. There is massive construction and truck traffic from Highgrove, both from the commercial businesses, from Spring Ranch, and that was years ago when I attended a meeting and I kept saying, why aren't you coordinating with Grand Terrace? These people are going to be coming through Grand Terrace. They're going to be using the 215 on and off ramp there. They're going to be shopping over here. And nobody addressed this issue, and it was supposed to be done, and the law says you can't use Measure 1 funds if you haven't first gotten your development impact fees. That's why I was mentioning a lot of these projects. The high school was put in. We were told all these surveys about it wasn't going to put all this traffic and cause all these problems on Michigan, well, and all around. Well, as you can see, there's a huge traffic problem in this city, and it is related very much to commerce not being put through. Plus, for many years, the city has not collected and enforce business licenses, and you have a lot of truck traffic and through traffic using Michigan and Van Buren and Mount Vernon as fast freeways and observation to avoid the traffic on the freeway. People are going from Main Street right through to Barton, these huge 18-wheeler trucks, okay? And that's where I kept saying, you aren't controlling the impacts of these businesses, and you're not even getting business licenses. If they're driving through here, they should be paying business licenses for our roads. And now, on December 8th, you want to talk about a truck route. Well, the truck route should be on Commerce. This is an essential thing that keeps getting ignored.
Thank you, Ms. Farley. Any other requests to speak at this time? Okay. Director Molina.
Yes,
Measure
Madam
I
Mayor.
funding of the projects that we're talking about, do these need to be looked at behind some sort of impact fees before we go ahead and look at Measure I funds for this?
No, Madam Mayor, they do not.
Okay. What is the regulation with respect to impact fees and how they affect these projects?
This particular program uses funds that are allocated towards these type of roadway projects. They're not related to the Development Impact Fee Program. The following item, which is the Capital Project Needs Assessment, that does have contribution of our development impact fees.
Okay, thank you. And at this time, if the city had the money and the desire, could we put a road through on Commerce all the way out to Taylor?
That is, our circulation element shows that there will be a connection from Commerce all the way down to Main Street. The actual alignment is yet to be completely defined, but we anticipate that it would probably go through Taylor. But I don't think we're at a point where we can definitively indicate where the actual alignment would be. Plus, we would have to acquire property because it would go through private properties.
Okay, so the roadblock, so to speak, is that we don't own the property that we would be putting that road on.
Yes, we don't have control of all the property, correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to bring it back to council for motion and further discussion.
I move adoption of resolution 2015 approving the 5-year Measure I capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2015-16 through fiscal year 2019-20, and 2, approve Measure I capital improvement plan expenditure strategy for fiscal year 2015-16 through fiscal year 2019-2020.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion and second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, please vote.
Mayor, item passes. Council members Wilson, Mitchell, and Hussey vote Yes. Mayor Pro Tem votes aye, and you also voted aye.
One more time?
The item passes, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to item 9, which is Measure I Capital Projects Need Analysis for fiscal year 2016, 2017 through 2020-21.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This before the council, again, is a sandbag requirement for the use of some Measure I funding. This, again, we asked Sandbag to allow us to submit it at a late date of November, which they've agreed to. So this is a project that actually, as part of that, the city does have to show and utilize development impact fees, our traffic impact fees, and how what portion of those funds that we anticipate over the fiscal years of the program that we would potentially collect and use to help fund this project, as well as Measure I funds. And so, as we have for a number of years, we've identified the Michigan Street project. As the council may recall, when the city former redevelopment agency had sold bonds, we were going to use those bond proceeds to improve Michigan Street. Those bond proceeds and some Measure I money through the CPNA program, but we're not able to use those bonds, and so we still include this particular project in the CPNA. The attachments show how we would fund the project over time. This is an annual report, so annually we can do different things. We can look at this particular project, we can look at adding other projects, and also the funding source with respect to impact fees. If we do not generate the funding that we anticipate, we also have the option of scaling back the project. But at this particular time, what we would ask the council to do is to adopt the resolution approving the 5-year capital project needs analysis, which identifies at this time Michigan Street. And with that, I would conclude my presentation. Additionally, Craig Newsteader is still here if there's any questions, technical questions with respect to the CPNA. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Councilmember Wilson.
Sandra, if you can't answer this, we'll have Craig answer, I guess. General plan designation for Michigan from Barton to the southerly city limits. What's it been for the last 35 years?
Councilmember Wilson, I can tell you what it's been since 2010 when we adopted our new general plan. A segment of it is a collector, and the other segment of it is a secondary street highway. So there's 2 different designations for that street, part of which, through that Michigan Street Improvement Project, we were going to rectify.
Okay. What portion is the 2-lane road?
I can't recall if it was the northerly segment or the southerly segment. I apologize. The southerly is the
okay.
collector.
The southerly portion. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. Do I have any requests to speak on this item? Thank you. Patricia Farley.
The fact, I want the microphone on, I want all residents to hear what I have to say.
Okay, before you begin, Ms. Farley is asking for 4 minutes, council. Are we allowing 4 minutes on this item? Okay.
If I don't have 4 minutes, then
No,
I have to talk really fast.
You will have 4 minutes, but please stay on task. Thank you.
Okay. The fact that this is not on.
Tap it.
Because then they say, if I shout, then they say it's too loud over the TV. Okay. The fact that this city is tonight deliberately and brazenly attempting to ramrod through the widening of Michigan to 4 lanes from Barton all the way to Main Street without having given written notice to all residential property owners on and near Michigan, again continues to demonstrate the city's flagrant disregard for not only the rights, safety, and well-being of the residential property owners, but also a disregard for the laws that are supposed to protect our rights. Residents have consistently requested information about the city's threats to Wyden, Michigan. When we last received any official written notice about proposals for Michigan, we were told to speak with an engineer sent by the city to discuss our concerns. The engineer specifically said storm drains could be put in without widening Michigan. We were also told that the city just wanted to put a turning lane in the middle of Michigan in front of our homes. I have talked with city staff members more than once in the last 2 weeks about Michigan. It is obvious that city officials intentionally withheld information from me and others in the city about tonight's agenda, which is both deceitful and illegal. It is unreasonable and unnecessary to put a 4-lane highway through on Michigan, which was legally supposed to be maintained as mainly a residential street with only a small bit of light commercial. And I could go through the history of the violations of that by the city. That's why it has not remained the residence that it should be. And this was guaranteed my parents when they bought their home in 1950, and the city sent out, when they proposed to have it be a city, they told everybody that they were preserving the nice residential. I have that too. The poor planning and false information, as well as sloppily drawn and revised and illegally processed maps, has been clearly pointed out to city officials over and over for the many years. City officials have demonstrated a complete lack of effort to correctly address and resolve the issues, and instead ignored their responsibility. As a result, they clearly ignored the true strengths and needs of this community as it has been developed. Incomplete, inaccurate, and blatantly false information has been distributed to residential property owners in Grand Terrace, which has and continues to do great damage to residential properties and their owners. City officials have and are obviously continuing their negligence and continue to violate our rights. I don't want a token compensation. Mr. Duffy, I do not want a token compensation. I want my property and my rights to be respected. A token compensation for the city for the major violations of our rights, which have been already significantly damaged, our property values, and our ability to have full use of and enjoyment of our properties, is completely unacceptable to me. This city is liable for the past as well as future damages to us and our properties. A token compensation would completely ignore the beauty and value of my family's home for me and other family members. I and other residential property owners need to be made whole from the damages already being done, rather than the city increasing the damages. And the way you could do that is put commerce through and your weighted trucking that you want to waste our time with on December 8th, and get them off Michigan. And also, all of the, is that my 4 minutes? All of the complaints you've had about speed and stuff. We've had mailboxes wiped out. We've had car hit the side of a house. We've had cars hit the brick wall. We pointed that out to the engineers. We have kids skateboarding up and down the road. Now you want to put 4 lanes of highways. We've got 18-wheelers coming through. The pollution and noise and the disregard for our safety and our right to enjoy our property has been trampled on.
Thank you, Ms. Farley. Next to speak is Krista Jacobson.
I live on Michigan, and we are against the expansion. We, right now, can't get out of our driveways. Right now, we can't. These people talk about Van Buren, about kids playing in the front yard. My kids can't go in the front yard. You want to go to a 4-lane highway, we got the high school. Really? They're already cutting lanes and speeding through there. They're not hitting the stop signs. Then on top, if you go double lane, you're going to take my property. And not only that, when the engineers came in, they told us our property will have the most impact. They will have to do a lot because of our grading. But they couldn't answer my questions. They couldn't tell me if they were going to replace what
was going to be damaged with the same quality of work. I saw the work that they did on front of the high school. They screwed them. The workmanship was awful. These are my concerns. This is a city that we bought into 18 years ago, and now they want to put in 4 lanes in the street. They want to do all these things. This high school and the traffic is awful. I have to leave my house by 6:35. If not, I can't get on my driveway. They will block me. They will not move. People say, oh, push out fast. Yeah, then I'm liable for an accident. I have kids who are running back and forth, kids who are roller skating. Then they tell us, oh, it's not going to be a 4-lane, we're going to have a turn lane. Oh yeah, with high schoolers, they're going to use that turn lane properly? Come on now, let's, And on top of it, no one tells us or makes us aware of any of these meetings. No one tells us anything. Being in this, we like where we live, and we have put money and invested in our property. In order for them to take the two extra lanes, they're going to have to go all the way up to my garage, because they need to up the grade. If not, your street and my house will be like this, and no one can answer questions. No one can give me any answers. If they're going to do this, give me some answers. Tell me who's going to do the work. Because I'll tell you what, if it's going to be the same people who did the work over on Main Street, no, that's not going to cut it. I don't do for that quality of workmanship. We put pride in our home, we put the money in our home, and we don't want half-assed workmanship. And that's what they got on Main Street by the high school. So these are my concerns.
Thank you for coming and stating those. Ms. Jacobson, would you give a contact number to the city clerk so that staff could follow up with you? Thank you. Mr. Jeff Allen, you're next to speak. Oh, okay, it looks like a 9. And you spoke on the last one, right? Okay, thank you. All right, any other requests to speak at this time? Please come forward.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Sarah Amick, and I live on Vivienda, the other Vivienda, not right by the 215. I live about 10 houses from Michigan, and I witness the traffic or lack of traffic. I don't notice any. I'm on Michigan probably about 8-10 times a day. One of my main concerns is I do have family, I do have friends, I do have associates that live on Michigan that have spent years and years of their hard-earned sweat, money, putting into these homes. Now, I'm going to assume that most of you are homeowners, and the location that you picked because you liked it, the yard, the front yard. You could raise your kids. You could have your kids out playing around. You didn't have to keep them, out in the backyard or inside the house, or you didn't have to drive to the park. You could enjoy the property you live in. I think it's truly unfair that if you want to widen the lane, that this wasn't done years ago when the city was being developed. Perhaps then the houses, if the residents would have been notified when purchasing the property or before the property was built, could have set those houses back further. Now you've got people who have homes, who have front doors, who have garages, who are going to be right up on that street. Now, if you're concerned about traffic and speeding, what happens when there's an accident and the car goes through? What happens with these kids growing up, not being able to enjoy their front yard, or as a homeowner like myself, who has to tell their child they can't go play? It's truly unfair that all of a sudden, someone thinks it's a good idea to widen the lanes. How about putting sidewalks on the streets? How about doing something that actually really matters? The most of the traffic that comes through is before and after school that I've witnessed. And like I've said, I'm on Michigan quite often. I just don't think that it's fair that all of a sudden someone thinks it's a good idea to widen the lanes, and now we got to take it and take these people's property, put the lanes up close to their kitchen windows, their living room windows. These people have no more front yards. Would you like somebody taking your front yard away from you? I think it's truly disrespectful. It's like spitting in this residents' faces, saying that all of a sudden, here's some property. Buy in Grand Terrace. It's a wonderful place. And then all of a sudden, guess what? You're not going to have it anymore. Why? Because we think it's a good idea to take it away because it suits our self-serving needs for something else. Come up with a better plan. What's your plan B? Do something else. I haven't heard one thing about a plan B or a plan C to derail this project that you want to, continue on. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right, I'm going to close public comment. I have a question for staff at this moment. The particular resolution that we're looking at right now deals with funding at this time. Does that mean that project design will not come back for public comment and input?
No, this is just a funding program. It's a funding tool. As far as the design of the project, how it moves forward, that's has its own process. As the council may recall, when we had the bond funding, we were having public meetings. We've had a series of public meetings. Our engineer at that time had a design for the roadway. So no, this is just a funding mechanism, a program that's required by Sandbag. But as far as the scope or the project description, that over time, city can finesse, and there would be a process for the actual development of it.
Okay, thank you. I'll bring it back to council for consideration of motion and further discussion. Councilmember Wilson.
Madam Mayor, move for approval resolution number 2015, resolution of the City Council of the City of Grand Terrace, State of California, approving a 5-year Measure I capital project needs analysis for fiscal year 2016 through 17 through 2020 through 2021.
Thank you. Is there a second? Okay, for this item, I will provide a second so that we can vote. So there's a motion and a second. Please vote on this item.
Motion passes 4 ayes, 1 no. Council members Wilson Mitchell voted aye. Mayor Pro Tem Robles voted aye. Mayor McNabb voted aye. Council member Hussey voted no.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 10, which is an amendment to Chapter 5.80, Non-Owner Occupied Rental Property Program. May we have a staff report, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. This is an amendment to our non-owner occupied rental program. In 2006 is when the council at that time first adopted this program. And what this does is allow staff to, through annual inspections, ensure that our non-owner occupied properties are being maintained adequately. What is before the council are three changes. We are proposing to amend the section that talks about the good landlord tenant program. When a property owner has had satisfactory inspections over a 3-year period or 4-year period, there's a reduction in the annual inspection fee. If you've had good inspections for the last 4 years, for the 5th year, you only pay 25% of the fee. What staff is proposing to do is to increase that from 25% to 30%. And in the staff report, it gives you an example of what that means for a single-family residence. I think it goes from $23 and some change to, I think it goes up a few dollars. And this is just to cover the cost of staff's time to send out the annual notices, send out the inspection request, and just do the follow-up administratively. We also have a paragraph C on staff page 77, or packet page 77, that if a property's been in the program for 10 years, in the 11th year, regardless of where they're at in the inspection phase, that it reverts to year 1 so that we can go back and comprehensively do our inspections. Because when properties go into that good year inspection program, it's just a windshield survey. We're not going out to the actual property and doing a more comprehensive survey. So if you've been in the program in the 11th year, you're going to go back to year 1 so that we can do that comprehensive examination again. And then the third change is There's a section in there that requires staff to hold an annual educational program workshop with all program participants. We've had 0 participation in the last 2 years, even though we do noticing, and we get the word out to our program participants. And so we're proposing to eliminate that requirement and instead put this information on our website, and when we send the annual notices out to residents or to the program participants, we'll let them know how to get that information. So with that, staff would request that the council introduce the ordinance amending so the sections 5.80050 and 5.80060 of chapter 5.80. Thank you.
Director Molina, the 11th year of participation, whether or not the Good Landlord Program is applied to the participating property, it reverts to first-year status. Does this change the fees that they'll be paying?
Yes, the fees would go to first-year fees.
Okay, so they might be a good landlord and they may have gotten into this program and had the reduced fees, but now because it's hit year 11, we're going to make them go through the process and increase their fees and have them go back through again. Are we finding that there are a number of homes in the 11th year that somehow fall out of good property?
All right, well, we're just barely getting to that year 10 because this program was adopted in 2006, and so we're like in year 9 right now. But again, when you get to the 3rd and 4th years, it's a nominal inspection, and we don't do that much of a comprehensive examination. We do drive-bys pretty much. And so by the 11th year, we just want to be able to have that opportunity to do the more comprehensive examination. And the stamp page 74 gives the breakdown of what the fees are. So for the majority of the homes in the program are single-family residential, and so the fee right now, the fee is $95 for the first year, and then it goes down based upon the Good Landlord Program. So, for instance, the example that was given that is of a single-family home that's in the Good Landlord Program. The fee is $23.75.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Councilmember Hussey.
Yeah, that was my concern too, Mayor, was after 10 years, it seems like we're starting the process all over. Why can't we keep at the 10 years the same, we don't raise that rate and just keep it, if something happens, and I understand that we maybe up the rate for them, but after a decade, they're being good landlords. I don't know why we gotta, it seems like a punishment making them start all over. That's what I'm reading.
Thank you. Councilmember Mitchell.
Maybe at the 10th year, they go through the more thorough inspection, but we keep their rate the same, and we just kind of absorb those costs ourselves as a city, knowing that they've been a good renter.
Mr. City Manager?
Yes, Mayor and Council, one of the important components of this is that it's single family, but it's also the multifamily units. And the significant issue is that when we start off in year 1, and there's a reduction that occurs over a period of time. And so they've had this reduced rate for a significant amount of time, but the inspection of the properties have not been at the same level. So as we're focusing in on the single families, we're really talking about the significant portion too is the multifamily units, and that's going to require us to go back and do a more comprehensive review. Now, if they after a 10-year period, we haven't done an extensive check, and we're going to be doing that check again, and they have the ability to get those discounts again once they continue on with that new 10-year period.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Wilson.
I've asked this question before. Are we finding a significant need for this inspection program?
Director Molina.
Are we finding a significant need for the program?
Yes.
Well, we are implementing it as was the desire of the council back in 2006, and so we do have our annual inspections. And we are having, the multifamily projects are probably the projects that we have the most need for this. Throughout the year, we've had a few of our complexes where our code enforcement officer is contacted fairly regularly, and so we're going to look at those those particular complexes, see where they are in the program, and probably move them back into either the third year or the second year, depending on where they're at. And so we feel that there is a need for the program to ensure that the homes that are being rented out excuse me, are in the condition they should be.
Councilmember Hussey.
Now, are we assuming everybody participates in this program that's renting their houses out? You know, you might just have landlords renting it out and not participating. I mean, are we guaranteeing that, or are we just going by if there's a complaint and you find out there's a renter and they're not in this program, are they fined for not participating, or what? How's this work?
We would identify properties that should be in the program through complaint basis. That's one avenue. We don't at this time have a significant capacity to be able to proactively identify homes that may be rented out. We do. We probably don't spend the time that we could or that we should to identify properties that are not in the program that should be in the program. But I can't. It's just like any ordinance, any regulation. There's no guarantee that you're going to capture everyone, but we do what we can to capture those that we can.
Yes, Mayor, if I might.
Mr. City Manager.
Yes. To your point, Councilman Hussey, is that it is a little more difficult for us to monitor the single-family units, but it's also extremely important that we have the program for the multifamily units, and we can say with some certainty that all of the multifamily units are in the program. We can't have that same level of confidence for the single-family residents because there are a number of ways that they fall through the cracks.
Any other questions for staff? All right. Do we have a request to speak form on this item? Thank you. Patricia Farley.
This relates very much to the concerns that I was expressing about the low-income developments. The requirements by the laws, I was told by your advisor that they're supposed to be pretty strict on how these people maintain their homes, etc., and the rules that are followed. I have 5 homes across from me that were years ago put in for low income. And one of those homes has been a problem for many years. It has somebody else there now that has fixed up the home. But these homes have not been monitored. And that's more important than the rentals, is that you're paying attention. And also, the advisor to you mentioned that the definition is changing for who is a family. And so when you're looking at how many people can live in one house and whether or not they can be related is a huge problem right now for me across the street with one of the houses because of the number of vehicles that they want to park on the street, irregardless of the fact they have a small piece of property, they're not using their garage, and they're parking as their permanent parking places over in front of other people's houses. Santa Ana had an area where this was a problem, and the citizens had to fight for years to finally force the city to put permit parking, etc., because they couldn't park anywhere near their homes. People visiting them couldn't, okay? So I asked that this be addressed. I told Mr. Duffy, I don't know what the current law is, but when you're developing this housing, you need to address those issues. What is a family? How many people can live there? And should people have 10, 12 vehicles lined up on the street for their permanent parking because they want to overload these houses? That was supposed to be part of the regulations.
Thank you. Any other request to speak at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to council for a consideration of a motion and further discussion.
A motion to introduce an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Grand Terrace County of San Bernardino, State of California, amending sections 580.050 and 580.060 of Chapter 5.8 non-owner Occupied Rental Property Program of Title V of the Grand Terrace Municipal Code.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion passes, 4 ayes, 1 no. Council members Hussey, Mitchell voted aye. Mayor Pro Tem Robles voted aye. Mayor McNamara voted aye. Councilmember Wilson voted no.
Thank you. Move to item 11, which is the zoning code amendment 15-01, establishing a new chapter 18.80 signs. May we have a staff report, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you very much. I'll make this a brief report. So back in September, the council held a public hearing to look at our new sign code chapter, and the council did provide some input and direction to the staff and continued the meeting. Staff has gone back and revised the ordinance. It is currently undergoing a comprehensive legal review due to recent case law changes, and so we wanted to make sure that that our code is compliant with case law on signs. And we understand the need to have that comprehensive review. At the time that I was preparing the staff report, I did create some new sections for the council to consider, including temporary human signs, temporary special event signs, and then temporary off-site residential subdivision signs, and then also some discussion on freeway signs. But the case law has to do with the temporary signs and content, and so through the consultation with our legal counsel, we decided not to move forward with those discussions. But we did want to have the discussion on the freeway signs. And this was in particular because there's a business owner that wanted to get some input from the council on this item. So what I'll do is I'll just go straight into the freeway signs, and really it has to do with the electronic copy of those freeway signs. Currently, our zoning code allows properties that are located within 250 feet of the freeway to have a freeway sign, and a freeway sign can be between 50 feet to 75 feet high, depending on the type of business or businesses, and can have between 50 square feet of sign area or 75 square feet of sign area. And the zone districts are the commercial industrial zone districts that freeway signs are allowed, and only one is permitted. And so what staff did is, and it's in the staff report, we here's a few graphics of some freeway signs we have in the city, Shell, and the Blue Mountain Collision Center. So what we've done with regard to our sign code is we're proposing to keep the standards the same as currently are in place with respect to the zoning and the height and the size. However, we've written provisions that if a project is 100,000 square feet or more, then through a sign program, the Planning Commission can determine whether the number of signs, the sign area, and the height. And we feel that this is kind of the right time to have this discussion because we are currently in an exclusive negotiating agreement with Lewis Group, and they're looking at the 55 acres that the successor agency currently owns. And we're looking at master planning that entire area just adjacent to the freeway. And so if that turns out, our plans, our hope is to have that become a regional commercial center. And if that's the case, then we can see where there's going to be some desire for electronic copy signs. And so part of the discussion in the staff report, we also provided some provisions if you have electronic copy. Having problems with this.
Would you like the handheld?
I think it's working out, Madam Mayor, and I'll sum up real quick. So we wrote some provisions for electronic copy. It's very clear this is not a billboard. It's a freeway sign. And here's some examples.
We're going to have you use the handheld. The handheld doesn't record, is that what I'm hearing?
Okay, so I will use this. So what I was saying was that the provisions to allow electronic copy I included in the staff report. The electronic copy is to advertise businesses that are on the subject parcel of the project. It's very clear that it's not a billboard. We're not advertising or proposing to advertise off-site businesses. And we would carefully regulate the use of electronic signs, and that would be limited to freeway signs only. And I have some examples nearby. City of Fulton has some RV businesses that have these type of electronic signs. So I would ask the council to just provide some feedback on these particular provisions, and as we work through with the legal counsel on the entire ordinance, we'll bring that back to the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff at this time? Okay, seeing no questions. Any requests to speak at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public hearing and bring it back to council. Recommendation is to receive the staff report and provide staff direction. Is there any direction that we would like to give to staff at this time? All right, motion to receive and file?
What is that question?
Sure.
With regard to staff proposing to allow electronic copy on the freeway signs, is that something that the council would be amenable to? That's the type of direction I would like to have moving forward.
I'm amenable to it. What about my colleagues?
I am too, as well.
Councilmember Wilson? You have a look. She wants to know the changes that we would make to allow electronic signs along the freeway. Is that something that you would be supportive of?
Yeah, that's great. I thought that's what we were doing.
Okay. She wanted specific direction. That we were good with that. Okay. So motion to receive staff report. Please vote.
Who second?
The rules, as I have read them, said that I don't need a second. And especially we're receiving and filing, so.
Motion passes 5 ayes.
Thank you.
Council members Hussey, Wilson, Mitchell voted aye. Mayor Pro Tem Robles voted aye. Mayor McNamara voted aye.
Thank you. Item 12, contract agreement with Cisco Riverside. May we have staff report, please?
Good evening. Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. My name is Linda Phillips. I'm the Director for the Child Care Services for the City of Grand Terrace. This staff report supports goal number 1 to ensure our fiscal viability. The City of Grand Terrace Child Care Services has for the last several years purchased all of its bulk perishables and non-perishables items from Cisco. The agreement that you have before you does not change the cost of the city purchasing the food. Staff is requesting that council approve the contract and authorize the city manager to execute and renew for additional years. I'm available if you have any questions.
Any questions of staff at this time? Any request to speak forms? And I don't see anybody wanting to request to speak at this time. I'll bring it back for consideration of motion.
Make a motion, we award the agreement to Cisco, subject to the approval of the city attorney, and authorize the city attorney to approve non-material revisions, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement for 1 year in the annual amount not to exceed $35,000, with the option of 2 one-year extensions for a total of 3 years.
I'll second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, please vote.
Councilmember Wilson, did you vote?
Councilmember Wilson, did you vote?
Motion passes 5 ayes. Council members Hussey, Wilson, Mitchell voted aye. Mayor Pro Tem Robles voted aye. Mayor McNamara voted aye.
Thank you. Item lucky number 13, award of October 2015 community benefit funds to the Friends of the Grand Terrace Branch Library. Staff report, please.
Yes, Mayor. Yes, Mayor, our last item for the evening. This staff report supports the following City Council goals. Goal number 1, to ensure our fiscal viability through continuous monitoring of revenue receipts and expenditure disbursements. And goal number 4, develop and implement successful partnerships through productive collaboration with community groups. As a background, on June 23, 2015, City Council approved the use of $25,000 from the general fund reserve for a community benefits fund. Since then, City Council has approved two applications. Tonight, before City Council's review, is the application received from the Friends of the Grand Terrace Branch Library. The Friends support the Grand Terrace Branch Library in its programs and activities through the holding of fundraising events, such as book sales and sponsoring staffing library events. The Friends share a love of books and learning, value the Grand Terrace Library as a place of knowledge and inspiration, and cherish the library as a vital community resource. Their application is requesting that they be provided funds for their preschool activity. Their goal is to create an area in the Grand Terrace Branch Library for activities that promote reading and creativity for preschoolers. They've determined that preschoolers need an area with supplies to encourage critical thinking skills, hand-to-eye coordination, manual dexterity, basic problem solving, and reasoning skills. Their application request for funding is $1,750. And as stated earlier, these funds will be used to purchase various supplies and interactive toys for the program. A detailed list of what they wanted to purchase is behind their application. Staff reviewed both application and events, and we are recommending that City Council approve the award of $1,750 to the Friends of the Grand Terrace Branch Library. Also included in the fiscal impact is what we will always provide. As you can see, the balance as of September after the two applications, and with this approval, the revised balance of the fund will go down to $21,900. That concludes my report. I will be happy to answer any questions City Council may have.
Thank you. Questions for staff?
I do.
Councilmember Hussey?
We're not tax exempt for the county library? Because I'm looking at plus tax and shipping for the items.
No, we are not. Even when the city purchases our own supplies, we do have to pay the tax.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? All right, I have no request to speak forms in front of me. So if council will consider a motion for this item.
Make a motion to approve the award of $1,750 of the city's Community Benefits Fund to the Friends of the Grand Terrace Branch Library for children's supplies for the preschool activity program.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion passes 5 ayes. Council members Hussey, Wilson, Mitchell voted aye. Mayor Pro Tem Robles voted aye. Mayor McNamara voted aye.
Okay, thank you. Item H, City Manager Communications. Mr. Duffy.
Great, thank you, Mayor. The following announcements will be sent out via flyers in the city's e-blast system. I encourage you to go to www.grandterrace-ca.gov and sign up for the e-blast on the front page of the city's webpage. The holiday tree lighting ceremony will be held on December 3rd, 2015 at 6 p.m. on the corner of Palm and Barton Road. Also, on December the 9th, 2015, the city's birthday party will happen. More information will be forthcoming in the future. City Hall operating hours will be adjusted as we prepare for the Thanksgiving holiday. City Hall will be closed on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday in November on the 25th. The 25th? Yes.
25th and 26th.
25th, 26th, and 27th. Thank you. Several council members mentioned this earlier. We had a great lunch yesterday at the Senior Center. Over 57 people showed up. The Senior Center offers lunch Monday through Friday from 11:30 to 1. The lunch is provided through the City of Grand Terrace's Community Development Block Grants, or CBDG funds. Residents or seniors are asked to make a $3 donation, but it is not a requirement. for the $3 donation. So it's your center. So we encourage the seniors to actually use the facility. And also, my final comment is at the last council meeting, the finance director gave a first quarter report. And in the comments for the finance director, she mentioned that her monthly financial reports will be quarterly reports in December and in the mid-year and in the third quarter. There was some confusion that she would no longer be doing the monthly reports, and that's not correct. She would be providing the monthly reports, and then on the third quarter, the third month, she'll provide the quarterly report. Just want to clarify that.
In addition or in place of?
And so, for example, December, instead of having a December report, it would be a first quarter report. And so in March, it would be a mid-year report.
And the quarterly reports end up being a staff report?
Yes.
Whereas the monthly is in the consent calendar?
Consent calendar, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. My comments.
Well, that brings us to the end of our meeting. Thank you all who came out tonight, and those of you that left early, I understand. But I appreciate the participation of everybody that came out tonight and spoke. And I think that we, as a city, are better when our residents come and are engaged. So I'm going to adjourn to the next regular city council meeting that will be held on Tuesday, November 24th, 2015 at 6 p.m. Agenda items request must be submitted in writing to the city clerk's office no later than 14 calendar days preceding the meeting. And thank you to my colleagues and to the staff. We are adjourned.